The more I give, the more I live. I don't know where I came up with this philosophy. I just, a lot of you have probably heard the more you give, the more you get. That's not necessarily true. Sometimes we do get a lot of stuff, but I do live more. I have an incredible life today. Not the kind of life that I thought I would have when I was 62 years old. Looking back, I thought, my life would turn out a lot different than it is today. But 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to go to prison. And I like going to prison. I go to prison and I pass out a book called The Purpose-Driven Life. And I was able to give 400 of those books away a couple of weeks ago. I went from room to room. A lot of people call them cells. I went from room to room. I met people. I introduced myself to them. I gave them a book of hope, a book that can change our lives. I've read the Purpose-Driven Life book over 120 times, cover to cover. Melissa is my star. She used to inspire me. Now I'm just jealous and envious. But Melissa, do you have any idea how many times you've read the book?
219. I started reading it in 2004 consistently.
So how many times?
219.
219 times, cover to cover. 370-something pages of a book. I read one chapter a day with exception. Every once in a while I'll miss a day. This morning I've not read a chapter. I got up at 4:50 this morning, which is the time that I get up every day with a few exceptions. International travel, it kind of makes it difficult to get up at that time in the morning. So let's see what this does when I push that. Okay, number one, winners take action. Okay, you can have a great idea, but if you don't take any action on it, nothing's going to happen. All the results that we get are because we take some kind of action. It's a real simple motto. A lot of times, fear stops me from wanting to do something, and I think about, I want to do this, and then I just remember this simple phrase, winners take action. How simple that is. So I'm thinking about, okay, I want to start a seminar. No, if I start a seminar, it probably won't work, it won't be effective, da-da-da-da-da. And then I think, well, winners take action. So I'm going to take action. I'm going to do something, I'm going to get a result. If we don't make a decision, we're making a decision. If we make a decision to do something, we're making a decision to do something. But if we say, I'm not going to do it, and we don't take that action, we're not going to get any kind of result. So this is kind of a rundown of, we can put this in, a lot of times people talk about their college degrees and all the things that they've done, all the classes they've been to, and all. But in 1983, I was homeless. I read at a 4th grade level at age 26. I got sober. I quit using drugs and alcohol in 1983. 1987, I started this company, Pacebutler Corporation. I only had $62.53. We didn't make any profit for the first 4 years. I got absolutely no paycheck for the first 4 years. I borrowed money from family. I rented out a couple of rooms in my house in order to survive the first 4 years. In 1997, I became a millionaire. And that's kind of a fun deal. Kinda. In 1998, I got married, and I'm still married to the same woman. My first daughter was born in 2000. My second daughter was born in 2001. And in 2002, I got to experience a class action lawsuit. My net worth in 2003 was $1.8 million. In 2007, I wrote the book, Mentor, the Kid and the CEO. In 2012, I ran 236 miles across the state of Oklahoma because of a guy named Terry Fox. In 2013, I rode my bicycle across the United States from San Diego to Jacksonville, Florida. In 2014, I rode a Sea-Doo from Webbers Falls, Oklahoma. Just if you go down I-40 about 80 or 90 miles, I guess, east, you'll see a bridge. And just to the north of that bridge is a little town called Webbers Falls. And I launched my Sea-Doo there. And I thought I would just spend the afternoon and I'd ride my Sea-Doo down to New Orleans. And then I had the van following me, and I was just going to pull the Sea-Doo out and drive home and go to work the next day. Well, I didn't calculate. I didn't plan. I didn't really have a map. I just knew you got on the river and went that way. I never ever had been in a lock on a river before. I didn't know the procedures. There were 13 locks to go through. There were a lot of roadblocks. I made it all the way to Fort Smith. Fort Smith, I ran aground. I got some stuff in the turbine, and so we couldn't continue on. The second time I tried it, we got past Fort Smith. The third time we tried it, I didn't even get out of Kerr Lake because the waves were ridiculous and it was extremely cold. The next time I tried it in a boat, not a Sea-Doo. And then we made it all the way to the Mississippi River. And the last time, I made it all the way to New Orleans. It took 3 days, not just an afternoon. It took a lot of fail. I believe that we got to fail our way to success, analyze, get a result, analyze the result, decide on whether or not we want to continue on. And it was really cool because my assistant at the time, his name is Timothy Harlan. And Timothy Harlan is an angel. I mean, he doesn't cuss. He doesn't lie. Can you imagine a person that does not lie? Now, most people said, there's no way that this guy doesn't lie. He never kissed a woman or a girl until he proposed to his current wife. She said yes, and they kissed on the lips. He was my assistant. Never gotten into trouble. Homeschooled, lived in Muskogee, Oklahoma. You know Timothy, right?
Oh yeah, I remember him. He always had a cheerful spirit. He was always kind. He was always willing to help.
Very well-mannered, right?
Very well-mannered, yep.
And so Timothy and I are going down the river on these Sea-Doos. We got a support van following us. We get to just outside of Baton Rouge, and Timothy's Sea-Doo stops running. Now Timothy, I pull up alongside of him and I say, Timothy, you're going to have to pull off to the side of the river. We'll call, the van will come pick you up. I have got to make it this time. I'm going to leave you here. You call him. And the only thing Timothy, he wasn't really prepared to be stranded out in the middle of nowhere. The only thing he had on were shorts and a life vest. I don't even know if he had any shoes. So he pulls the Sea-Doo up alongside. I take off. We've called the van. It's going to take an hour or two for the van to get to the location. There's not any easy roads to get there. And this pickup truck comes down the road, and it's just like a trail. It's not really a road. And this old pickup truck comes down the road, and this guy gets out. And has anybody ever heard of the movie Deliverance? Now, Timothy looks like a Disney kid. And he's actually in the movie Mentor, the Kid and the CEO. He plays the kid. And when he plays the kid, he's 22 years old. He's very young looking. And so he's about this tall. So he's taking his life vest on. He's got on shorts, no shoes, and here comes the Deliverance pickup truck. The guy gets out of his pickup truck, and he's got a pistol strapped to his belt. And he moseys up to have a little chat with Timothy. And he says, "What are you doing out here, boy?" And Timothy said his heartbeat started to get going a little bit. And he said, "Well, my Sea-Doo broke down and I'm waiting for the van to come pick me up." And the guy said, "Ain't no van coming here." And Timothy's heartbeat got up a little bit more. And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "Well, boy, you're on prison property. And there is a huge prison along the river. I'm not sure the name of the prison, but it's a big prison, and it's a really severe prison, and they don't really like when people get on their property." And so Timothy explained to him what we were trying to do and all this, and so he got on the radio, he called, and a bunch of other guards showed up, and they relayed information to the van, and the van, they had to leave all of their electronics at the gate, and they were able to come in and get the Sea-Doo out. Well, when he pulled the Sea-Doo up alongside of the shore, and they were having this discussion, barges would go down the river, and when they would go down the river, they would have these huge waves, and those waves would hit the Sea-Doo, and it dislodged the Sea-Doo from the riverbank, and the Sea-Doo floated down the river. So now Timothy's out in nowhere land. The Sea-Doo's gone, so they have to get a boat from the prison to go find the Sea-Doo, to get the Sea-Doo out of the river. And so Timothy, this angel, thinks he's got the story to tell everybody. He's got the most incredible story he's going to be able to tell. He's got the story of the trip. Well, I go ahead and go down the river on the Sea-Doo by myself. I've got an extra 2-gallon tank. I make it through the Baton Rouge. I make it all the way to New Orleans. It's about 7 o'clock in the evening. I think, this is it. I've made it. I call the van. He's safe. He's on the van. And I call the van, and they say, okay, where are we going to get the Sea-Doo out of the river? And I saw this government called the Army Corps of Engineers. They had this beautiful building. They had this beautiful boat ramp right there. I said, just meet me at the Army Corps of Engineers. We'll take the boat out and we'll take the Sea-Doo out and we'll go home. They pull up to the gate. They say, we're here. We want to get our friend out of the river. And the lady said, this is a government property. You cannot come in here. If you come in here, we'll arrest you for trespassing on federal property. You cannot use our boat ramp. So we tried to convince them, and they got more upset, trying to convince them to use it. They said, you can't do it. So we had a little dialogue. So I was driving up and down the river on a Sea-Doo looking for a place to get the boat out of the river, to get the Sea-Doo out of the river. And I had refueled. I had contact lens in my eye. They were dry. It got dark. It got really dark. At 10:30 at night, I still had not found a place to get the Sea-Doo out of the river. I'm going back and forth, no lights on the Sea-Doo, of course, and I'm going back and forth on the Sea-Doo, and all of a sudden I hear this big crew boat. Now the boat was probably about as long as this room. Those PT boats they used in the military. It was one of those boats, had massive engines, had a big spotlight on it, and they were coming at me at full speed. And they got on a megaphone and they said, stop. Now, I didn't know who they were. They didn't seem friendly. Their tone of voice was not friendly. So I did not stop. And so they started chasing me. I was no lights. They had their spotlight. They were right behind me. I would get up to speeds of 50 miles an hour in the dark where I couldn't see what's going on. My contacts were all fogged up. They're chasing me. And as I'm going down the river, I see this dock. And it is lit up with blue lights from the police cars, red lights from the police cars. There's like 15 patrol cars on this bridge, on this dock and around this dock. And I see our van. So I think, okay, I'm going to be safe. I don't know who these crazy people are that are chasing me. I'm going there. So I drive the Sea-Doo up there. I go into this little cul-de-sac, and this boat is behind me going full speed, coming into this dead-end cul-de-sac deal. And it's got a pretty good sized wave behind it, about a 6-7 foot wave behind it. And they come in at full speed, and I'm hanging on to the dock. The cops are around me. This guy pulls up in this thing, hits it in reverse. The waves come up over. He jumps off with an automatic weapon, and he says, he is pissed. I mean, he's pissed. He's spitting mad. And I'm holding on to this dock. He's up above. He's got all these cops and all these people. And he's cussing at me because I'm running. And it turns out it's Homeland Security. And he just keeps on, Robert. He's so spitting mad. He's yelling at me. And then all of a sudden he stops. And he says to me, what do you got to say for yourself? Well, I'm sure you would have answered the same way, Tony. I thought about it for a second, and my answer to him was, I want my mommy. And all the cops, he laughed, everybody laughed, and they helped us to physically pick the Sea-Doos up. 6, 7, 8 guys we picked the Sea-Doos up and put them on the boat trailer and drove out of there. So Timothy was a little upset because he had the story. I think I topped him. But the thing is, ideas create energy. What if you've ever ridden a Sea-Doo, you know about 5 minutes after going around in a circle jumping waves, it's like boring. But to drive 1,000 miles on a river, to see bald eagles, to see huge fish, to overcome some of the obstacles, the Sea-Doos broke down along the way. We had to make adjustments to get gasoline, all the stuff we did, all the things we do. Life, Brad just read a book, and I read the book several years ago, and it's life is difficult. The very first sentence of this book called The Road Less Traveled. Life is difficult. We're all going to have problems. Every problem I have has a solution. And every solution brings new problems. Do you guys remember when you were 15 years old and you thought, man, my life is going to be incredible once I get to have a car? When I get a car, I'm going to have freedom. I'm going to get to do all kinds of things. Life is going to be wonderful. I got this car. It's going to be great. Well, when I bought my first car, I had to pay for it. And so then I didn't have the money because I paid for this car. And then I found out you have to have insurance. So then I bought insurance. And then I found out you have to put gas in the car. Then I found out you got to maintain the car. So I had all kinds of problems that I didn't have before. And then, of course, I compared my insides to my friends' outsides, and I had to have a new car. Because my old car was a 1964 Chevrolet Impala station wagon. Now, if I had that car today, it'd be worth a lot of money because that's kind of a cool car, but it was not cool at 16. It was a family car. It had been well taken care of, and it was cheap, $300. But that was in 1974 is when I got that car, or 74, yeah. Every problem has a solution. The Sea-Doos, okay, I started World Book Bank in about 2015. In 2015, I also rode a motorcycle from San Diego to Jacksonville, Florida. For Christmas, when my daughter was 12, my other daughter was 14, I gave everybody in the family a Yamaha V250. I paid cash for them. We didn't finance it. I paid cash. I got an extremely good deal, 4 brand new motorcycles for less than $14,000. I thought that was a great deal. We've put a lot of miles on them. So from age 12, Abby was 12, to 14, we practiced. We learned how to drive the motorcycles. My wife did, and I did, and we drove. We would drive from May Avenue in Wilshire all the way out to Jones, Oklahoma, and back. It was a pretty safe road. And we practiced, and we learned how to drive the motorcycles. And then in 2 years, Abby turned 14, so then we drove out to San Diego in our motorhome with the trailer in the back, with the motorcycles back, an assistant to help do the driving and so forth. And we drove from San Diego to Jacksonville, Florida. Abby was 14, Emily was 16. This is an experience that they will never, ever forget. You know, we got the opportunity to spend time learning how to ride a motorcycle together. When we pulled into a Walmart to get a tire put on the motorhome, Emily met this nice gentleman. And he said, "What are you guys doing?" And she told him that, you know, we're going across the United States on motorcycles. And he said, "Oh, that's so cool." He said that he was in a motorcycle group. He didn't call it a gang, but he was in a motorcycle gang called the Rogues. I think it's the way you pronounce it. They're not the most nicest people in the world. I mean, they're nice if they like you, but if they don't like you, and they deal in all kinds of different businesses. Some of them are legitimate, and he really liked my daughter. She's blonde, she's pretty, and so he gives her a business card. Motorcycle gang guy's got a business card. And then he says, "Now, this number right here," he says, "if you call this number right here and you tell them where you are, and that you tell them if somebody's trying to hurt you or take advantage of you, you call this number, and we will have a member of our gang there momentarily." And my daughter, she comes back to the van and she's just strutting, you know. She's got this motorcycle gang, because we watch Godfather and those kind of things at home. So she's got this going on, and she's strutting, and she shows me the car, and she tells me about it, and I said, let me see the card. She gives me the card. I said, now listen, if you get in trouble and you need someone to help you, you call 911. And I tore the card up. So we got to ride the motorcycles, you know, from San Diego to Jacksonville, Florida. My wife was extremely happy once we reached Jacksonville, Florida, and went for a swim, because Emily, my oldest, would drive down the highway in the rain, adjusting her camera, working on her Apple phone, and taking pictures as she went down the road, passing semis coming. We're behind her watching this. So I was very happy, because I knew if my daughter got injured, either one of my daughters got injured, I would be dead. And my wife knew I had a life insurance policy. So we did that. And then Terry Fox. Have any of you ever heard of Terry Fox? One of my friends that I used to mentor, or still do, I guess, today, he called me and said, I'm going to send you a DVD. I said, okay. And he said, I want you to watch this DVD. It was about a kid named Terry Fox that lived in Canada. And Terry Fox was a short guy but wanted to play basketball. He got an opportunity to play basketball at their high school because he worked really hard and he stuck with it. Have any of you seen the movie Rudy?
Yeah.
Okay, so in the movie Rudy, you know, same thing. Short guy, not athletic, works really hard, gets to play one game, one or two plays in the last game of the season for Notre Dame. And he also, he got a college degree. His brothers got a college degree. They came out of the steel mill. You know, really a great inspirational movie. I've watched it over 50 times. If you've never seen the movie Rudy, I highly recommend you watch it. And I would even go so far as to buy the DVD, because it's just such an inspirational movie. So Terry Fox was diagnosed with cancer. When he was in college, in the first or second year of college, he was on the basketball team. He didn't want to tell anybody he had cancer. He didn't want to tell anybody he was sick first, but his knee got really big, and that's when he went to the coach and he told the coach, and they went to the hospital. They examined him and they said, you have cancer, Terry, and you're going to die unless we amputate your leg. Now, this was an 18, 19-year-old kid. None of us would like to lose our legs. This was a kid that worked really hard to become an athlete, and now they were going to cut his leg off. The night before they did the surgery, his coach showed up and did something that was hurtful. He brought Terry Fox a magazine. And the magazine he brought Terry was Runner's World. Terry's going to have his leg cut off. He shows up with a magazine, I guess to kind of lighten Terry's mood, you know. I mean, he shows up with a magazine and gives this magazine to Terry. And Terry's, you know, a little bit miffed. And the coach says, open it up. And inside the magazine, a person had just finished running the New York City Marathon on a prosthetic. And he said, Terry, if this guy can do that, you can do it. And so Terry, they cut his leg off. Terry got out of the hospital. And after he started to recover, he started training. And Terry's ambition was more than just a marathon. Terry's ambition was to run all the way across his country of Canada, over 5,000 miles, to raise awareness about cancer and to raise money. He was in his early 20s now. He started running, no support. They would show up to a town where they were going to have a big, you know, gathering. All these people were going to show up. People were going to donate money, and there was nobody there. And there were no questions, and there was no coverage, no television coverage. There's no publicity. And they were calling the Cancer Society, trying to get the Cancer Society to get involved in this. The Ford Motor Company did. They had sponsored him with a van. They'd given him a van for this, a camper van, but no support. So he kept running, and he would run on that prosthetic. He would get up in the morning, he would get out of his van, and he'd start to run. And his friend Doug, who had been with him since they were kids, he supported him. And they got edgy, and they got in fights, and they got in arguments, and they didn't talk to each other for a while. And Terry would run to the next town, and no one would show up, or very few people would show up. But he kept doing it, and he kept doing it. And finally, after several hundreds of miles, maybe even 1,000 miles or so, the Cancer Society in Canada started getting more involved, and then they started getting more publicity. And Terry would come into a city now, and thousands and thousands of people would show up. Money started pouring in for the Cancer Society, which he was trying to do from the very beginning. But he had to keep going. He had to have perseverance. He had to keep going. He couldn't believe his thinking. He had to continue to repeat the phrase, winners take action. He was out there and he was doing something. If he would have given up and he would have quit, I wouldn't have run across the United States. I wouldn't have ridden a bicycle across the United States. I wouldn't have taken the action. Terry inspired me. Well, when Terry got to mile 3,200, he felt really, really, really sick. Now, if you've ever run long distance, you feel really, really sick most of the time. But I mean, he felt really sick. And so he agreed to go to the hospital. They checked him out. The cancer had come back. And they said, Terry, you've got to stop running. We need to get you back in the hospital. We need to start treatment as soon as possible. He did that. Terry died. Terry didn't make it. He only made 3,200 miles of over a 5,000 mile run. But when he was in the hospital that first night, somebody came up with the idea of a telethon for Terry Fox and for the Cancer Society to help with the bills and so forth. And so they organized and they set up this thing called the Terry Fox Foundation. The Terry Fox Foundation has raised over $600 million to fight cancer and to get people to get out and run, to participate in 10Ks, 5Ks, marathons. All over Canada, there are trophies of Terry Fox in parks. Every year, there are people that come together, do these runs, and all that money goes to fight cancer. So I believe that Terry Fox lived more than most people live their entire life. He inspired me. I remember when I told my wife I was going to run across the United States, she said, no. I showed the movie, the ESN movie to my family. My kids watched it. They were itty bitty. They watched it. I said, I'm going to run across the United States. What happens to Terry at the end of the movie? My kids started bawling, like, no, we don't want you to die. I was like, I'm not going to die. That was, so, so right now, I've run with a team from Jacksonville, Florida to Phoenix, Arizona. About 2,800 miles. 2,800 miles. People that have self-esteem do esteemable things. When you think about your accomplishments that you've done with your life, do you feel good about it? We do things that are wrong. I've done a lot of things that are wrong that make me feel bad. But when I think about the fact that I've run all the way from Jacksonville to Phoenix, Arizona, that's an incredible accomplishment. March the 5th, I will turn 63. March the 5th, I will start running the last leg, which is 430 plus miles. On Saturday, I'm going to start on Thursday, we're going to run all day Saturday, going to run all day Friday, and on Saturday night, I'm going to get on a plane and fly back to Oklahoma City, and I want to have done the whole 430-something miles with my team. We're doing a relay, and so most of us are amateurs, not a professional runner. We're just going to go out there and do the best we can. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. First question for you guys. You got a pen and paper, I hope. If you don't, there should be some over here. This is a question I'm going to ask you. You don't have to share this with anybody, and we're going to talk about it. What is your financial net worth? How much money are you worth today? If you died and your family came together and say, okay, how much is this person's estate worth? Say you have children. Say you have a spouse. What is your financial net worth? Now, how we determine a financial net worth is not how much money you make from your job or anything like that, but what is your assets? What are things that you have of value? And what are things that you owe? So if you own a car, say you bought a car for $10,000, and you went and got a loan on it, and you've been paying on it for a while, and now you've paid it down to $6,000. You owe $6,000 on this car you bought for $10,000, and we're not going to depreciate it at all. We're just going to say the car is still worth $10,000. So you have $4,000 worth of equity. $10,000 car, you've paid it down to $6,000. You can still sell it for $10,000, so you have $4,000 worth. But what you want to do is on the left-hand side of your paper, you want to write down everything that you have of value. Your car, maybe you own a house or a part of a house. Maybe you have a stamp collection. Maybe you have a record collection. Maybe you've written a book that brings in revenue, that you could sell the rights to the book. Maybe you have some oil production. Maybe you own some stocks. Maybe you have a 401k. Maybe you don't have any of these things. Maybe you loaned a friend $1,000. That's an asset. You loan them $1,000 and they're supposed to pay you back $1,200. What do you have of value? Now here's the situation, and the reason why I ask this question. Doesn't matter how much money we make if we spend more money than we make if we don't have money working for us. I think last week I made in one day over $120,000 without lifting a finger. My stocks went up. I've got 3 different stocks. I have stocks with E-Trade, I have stocks with Charles Schwab, and I have stocks in Wells Fargo. Just one account, just with I think Charles Schwab, went up over $100,000 in one day. No work. Now I started with nothing. You know, like I said in the thing, I've been homeless and I've been broke. I've been broke several times. I'll get into a little bit of what happened, but if you don't have money working for you and you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're going to depend on the government when you get to retirement age, then you're going to let them make a decision for you on what your lifestyle is going to be. Now, a really simple way for your financial net worth to become more. Very, very simple. Go to your HR department and ask them to take a small percentage of your check and put it into a savings account. Have a savings account at a bank. I call this a self-worth account. Have a savings account in a bank and have them your employer take out 5%, 3%, 10%. If you can take 10% out of your check and put it into that account, when we have no money, when we live from paycheck to paycheck, I said this phrase a lot. I'm broke. Somebody say, well, you want to go do this? I say, I can't, I'm broke. Well, let's go do this. I can't, I'm broke. During the week, I would say I'm broke hundreds of times. People would say, you want to go do something? I can't, I'm broke. If I have an employer that's taking 10% out of my check and say I'm making $500 a week, well, that's $50, is that right? So $50 a week that's coming out of my check that's going into this savings account, what I call a self-image account or a net worth account, I can no longer say I'm broke. In a short period of time, I got $500, then I got $1,000, then I got $1,500. And then that continues to grow by the money that I'm putting in there. So I'm no longer broke. So now my self-image is changing. It's very, very important for us to see our self-image in a different way. When I was in the 2nd grade, I was having a really tough time in school. I'm dyslexic. I have attention deficit disorder. I have a brother. He's 2 years older than me. He's not dyslexic. He doesn't have attention deficit disorder. He knows how to spell. He knows how to speak. He's the student of our family. He's the one. Why don't you be more like your brother? 2nd grade. I'm failing. I'm having a tough time. They take me to a psychiatrist to see if I'm a retard. Probably am a retard to some degree, but they take me there. What does that do for my self-image? That makes me feel even worse. Now they're telling me that I'm possibly a retard, that I'm failing in school, and now they come home, my dad comes home and he says, we're moving. And we're going to move over to Putnam City High Schools. We're going to move over to Putnam City schools. Oklahoma City schools are nothing. They're really easy. But I tell you what, when we get over to Putnam City, you're really going to have a tough time. You're probably going to fail. You're probably not even going to get to stay in school because you're stupid. So if my self-image is that I'm stupid from the 2nd to the 3rd grade and I'm going to this really tough school, what kind of grades do you think I'm going to make, Stephen?
Lousy.
Because my self-image won't allow me to make good grades. Because even if I study, my mind closes because I keep telling myself, I can't learn this stuff. So I go over to this other school, and the only way I'm able to pass tests is how, Amy? Who said that? Tony, you've been there, right? Yeah. So I cheat. And I make good grades. And I'm doing really good, Tony. I mean, I've got it down because I can verbalize, I can make friends, you know. I'm doing really good. So then I make friends with this girl named Lynette. And Lynette is a straight A student, and she lets me cheat. She likes me, I help her, you know, we help each other. She lets me cheat. And then in the 4th grade, the teacher says, well, Tom, why don't you come up and show us how to do long division? And I say, can I bring Lynette? And so I get up there and I don't know, I can't. Lynette, straight A student. Do you guys remember back, I don't know if they still do this, but on Mondays they would give us the 10 words to learn how to spell. You had to know how to spell them, you know how to put them in a sentence, you had to write a sentence, right? So on Mondays I would go home, because I'm stupid, I would start on Monday to learn those 10 words, and I would study. And I would write those words over and over and over, and I would do everything possible so that I wouldn't fail the test. And then on Fridays I'd go in and take the test, and I would fail the test, because my self-image says I was stupid. No matter how hard I studied, I'd fail. Sometimes I'd get a D. So I quit studying. I mean, if you're going to fail, why study, right? And so I would, what I would do is I would cheat off of Lynette. So one day I get to class early, and Lynette says, will you test me on the 10 words? I said, absolutely. I'd be happy to test you on the 10 words. Give me the list. So she hands me the list. I look at the words, and I tell her the word. She spells it. I tell her the next word. She spells it. She gets them all right. I'm watching. I'm teaching Lynette how to spell the words. Afterwards, we take the test. Now, I hadn't studied at all for this test. I made one of the highest scores I'd ever made on a spelling test because I tried to teach someone else what I needed to learn. Because I cared more about Lynette being successful, and my self-image was not involved in that. So I was able to teach Lynette how to spell, and I learned at the same time. So what is your financial net worth? Just write it down. Just write a number down. If you haven't written a number down, the reason why you haven't written a number down is you don't understand the system I'm asking you to do, or because of fear and embarrassment. I've been worth minus $1.8 million. I lost it all. I owed $1.8 million, and I doubt if there's anybody in this room that has a net worth of negative $1.8 million. If you do, or more, there's hope. Because today I'm worth over $8 million. And I study that. It's very important for me to know where I'm at financially. So write that number down, and we're going to move forward. Now, this is a regular combination lock. I got to look at this. I got a little pointer here. Where is it? Where? There. Where is it? What happens? Well, that's interesting. There it is. See the pointer? Okay. Jim Rohn talks about this. It takes 3 numbers to open this lock. 3 numbers. One of the numbers is 36. Another number is 13. It takes one more number to open this lock. Could you open this lock? Who said How would you open it?
Trial and error.
Trial and error. That's one way.
Each way. Check each number.
Now, I gave you the 2 of the 3 numbers, but I didn't give you the order. So the trial and error will work, but it could take a long time to get this.
Would you pull the sticker off the back?
The sticker's still back there.
You could ask.
You could ask somebody else the number.
You could ask you what the other number is.
Okay, so you could ask somebody to get the number, right? You could ask for help, right? But what do most men want to do? When we get lost, do we ask for help? Now we use the phone, but before we wouldn't ask for help. When we have problems, we don't normally ask for help, but that's great because that's called humility. To be able to ask somebody else for help when we need help, to ask, that's humility. Pride is, I'm not going to ask anybody. I'm going to figure this out on my own. I'm going to do trial and error. There we go. Force. Use force to open this lock, right? Well, like you pointed out, on the back of here are all 3 of the numbers. In order to get these 3 numbers, we have to do a simple 4-letter word. We have to read. We have to read these 3 numbers. If we read these numbers, we can open this lock. We don't have to cut it. We don't even have to ask anybody. Reading, okay? This book right here, I'm rereading this book, Dare to Succeed, okay? Briefly, I want to tell you about this guy. He came to the United States. He had about less than $500. Less than $500 when he came to the United States. He was an equivalent to a Navy SEAL. He came from England. He was equivalent to a Navy SEAL when he got here. He called a friend of his that was living in L.A. and he said, hey, look, I'm going to South America. I'm going to stop in the United States for a little bit. Can you get me a job? The guy was a friend of his from England. He said, I can get you a job. It's in the domestic. The guy was a chauffeur for a rich guy. He said, I can get you a job as a nanny. So he says, a nanny? He says, yeah. He says, I know this family. They need a nanny to take care of their 2 boys, and it pays, and it's also a place to live. Would you, gentlemen, you're a Navy SEAL, would you take a job as a nanny? Or would you want a job doing something more? Not many of us would take a job as a nanny, but he agreed to take the job. Now, the person that hired him lived in Beverly Hills. He was very wealthy. And he was the nanny to this person's kids. And so if somebody was going to take care of my kids, I'd want to know that person. They'd be having dinner with us at the table. They'd be around us. They would not be treated as a servant. They'd be treated as a person of the family, as a member of the family. So this guy that's very, very successful, he's talking all the time with Mark. Mark's the guy that took the job. He's talking with Mark and giving him all kinds of suggestions. And then one day he says to Mark, he says, I got a friend. He says, Mark, you're better than just being a nanny. You got opportunities. And Mark said, yes, sir. And he said, I have a friend that has a fence. It's 6-foot tall chain link fence. And it's about 10 or 15 feet wide. And I think you should rent that fence from my friend. And Mark says, well, how much does it cost? He says, $1,500 a month. Would you rent a fence, a chain link fence, that's all it is, 6 feet tall, 15 feet wide, would you rent that fence for $1,500?
Yes.
Depends what's it for, okay? His mentor told him he should rent the fence. His mentor, a mentor is a person that's been there and done it. His mentor was very successfully financially, and he said you should rent the fence. That's number one. Number two is the fence was located on Venice Beach. Number three, the fence was in a place where lots of tourists went back and forth all the time. And on that fence, Mark could put T-shirts on the fence and sell those T-shirts for $20. And his mentor also knew a place he could buy the T-shirts that said Venice Beach for $2. Hundreds of thousands of people go to Venice Beach every week, tourists from all over the world. Venice Beach is a very popular beach, Muscle Beach and all that stuff. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, he would put a shirt up on the fence and he would sell it about as quickly as he could put them up there. The whole fence had T-shirts on it. People would walk up, buy a shirt, $20, $18 profit. His mentor knew about the guy that had the fence, knew about the job, and gave him an opportunity. Now, Mark, being athletic and so forth, decided that he wanted to set up this kind of opportunity for he and his buddies to have some kind of competition to do on the weekends. So they decided to have their girlfriends drive them out about 45 miles from their house, drop them off and say, okay, who can get home first without riding in a vehicle? So they would plot the course. They'd have to go through some creeks and so forth and all that stuff. And then they'd do it and they were having fun with it, drinking beer, eating pizza, all that stuff. And somebody said, well, let's video this. So they videoed it and they presented it to a Discovery Channel. Discovery Channel, And so they started this program called Eco Challenge. Have any of you ever heard of Eco Challenge? So they started Eco Challenge, and then after a while, he's talking to his buddies. It's successful. It's making money. It's on national TV. It's syndicated throughout the world. People are watching it. And he's talking to his buddies, and he says, I got an idea. He said, what about if we took like 15, 20 people from all walks of life here in the United States, and we took them and we put them on an island. And we let these guys first have teams. And once a week, we're going to eliminate one of the team members. The tribe is going to vote to eliminate one of the team members. And we could call that show, what would you call that show, Tony? Survivor. So Mark became the inventor of Eco Challenge. He sold T-shirts. He sold... He started Eco Challenge, then he started Survivor, The Apprentice. Mark is worth over $600 million. The same amount of money that Terry Fox raised, over $600 million. You can do a lot of good stuff with $600 million. And that $600 million can make a lot more money. 10%, how much money would that make you? If you got a 10% return on $600 million, what would that be annually? 60 million. You can do a lot with that, right? All he did was started as a nanny. And from that, he took action. So the reason why I got that lock up there, one of the easiest ways to unlock that is through reading. Now, I read at a 4th grade level when I was 26 years old. I didn't want to read. The very first book I ever read cover to cover was a book called The Greatest Miracle in the World. That book did 2 things for me. 1, it gave me hope. 2, it proved to me I could read. I'm just slower. It took 3 days to read it. I talked to a guy day before yesterday. He read the entire book in 2 hours. It took me 3 days. 2 hours, 3 days. But I did it. Key components to success. Have an idea. Whatever the idea is. I'm going to start a seminar. I'm going to start a business called Pacebutler. I'm going to get married. I'm going to run across the United States. I'm going to give away books. Have an idea. And then take action. And the third one is extremely important. We got to stay committed. I got sober when I was 26 years old. I haven't drank or used any mind-altering chemicals since I was 26. I stayed committed to sobriety. There's been times I've wanted to use. There's been times I wanted to commit suicide. But I've stayed committed. I had an idea, I take action, and I stay committed. I believe there are no dead-end jobs. I got a job at 63rd and Meridian, shining shoes at 14 years old. Shining shoes in a barbershop. Nobody else wanted the job. I took the job. I started shining shoes, and I had very few customers, and I only got paid when I shined shoes. And it was like 50 cents per pair of shoes. And I had this one customer, he owned a restaurant. He called me up one day and he said, "Would you like to work in my restaurant?" He said, "I've seen you work. I said, I know what you do. I know you're a hard worker. You got a great attitude. Will you come work in my restaurant?" I said, "Yes, sir." "What do you want me to do?" "Wash dishes." So I grew up on the northwest side of town. There was a lot of affluency. I'm now working in a restaurant. First I was shining shoes. That was kind of embarrassing for some of my friends that I was shining shoes. Now I'm working in a restaurant as a dishwasher. One day the busboy didn't show up and he said, "Will you bus tables and wash dishes?" I said, "Sure." And then he hired someone to wash dishes, so then I became the busboy. And then I watched how the waiters and waitresses did the tables. And one day the waiter didn't show up and he said, "Can you wait tables?" I said, "Sure." So I waited tables and I did that for a while. And then one day he came to me and he said, "Would you like to be the night manager of this restaurant, the patio restaurant, which used to be at the Class and Circle over by Bill Isle?" I said, "Yeah, I'd love to be the night manager." I was 14 years old and I was the night manager of a very, very successful restaurant in Oklahoma City. I started as a shoe shine boy. Okay, so we got an activity. We got 6 minutes and then we'll take a break. So, write down your 5 top priorities. What is the most important thing in your life? Is it your job? Is it your family? Is it entertainment? Is it traveling? Is it your relationship with God? Write down your 5 top priorities. Most people never, ever do what I'm asking you to do. Most people never think about their most important priorities. Most people never write down what their financial net worth is. Most people don't show up at a seminar on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Most people don't save 10%. Dave Ramsey says, "Live like no one else today so you can live like no one else in the future." Do things that will help you to have a better life, a better standard of living. So, does everybody have their 5 priorities written down? Does anybody not? If you don't have them written down yet, raise your hand. Mike, you got them?
Got one more.
Okay. I'm going to share with you my 5 priorities. One of the things I want to be is I want to be transparent. I'm an underdog, and I've failed in a lot of things. Today, I'm pretty happy with who I am. Pretty happy. There are some things that I do that I'm still not proud of. I hurt people intentionally sometimes and unintentionally other times. I say the wrong things. I told my wife, with our daughter, you just need to listen. Don't give her feedback, just listen. So the next day I get an opportunity to practice what I preach. She talks for about 2 minutes. I start giving her advice. She shuts down. My wife, when she got home, went in, sat down, and just listened. You got it? Okay, so here are my 5 priorities. Number 1, my relationship with God. I am a Christian. I'm learning to be a better Christian. Number 2 is my health. If I'm not healthy, I can't do the rest of the stuff. So I need to eat right, I need to exercise, I need to get sleep, I need to make sure that I'm healthy. Last week I had eye surgery because I've got cataracts. I needed to have the cataracts replaced with a man-made lens so that I could see. I went in, I had eye surgery. I don't like necessarily going to the doctor. I don't like surgery. I don't like medication. But I went in and I had eye surgery because that's part of my health. I take great care of my teeth. I go to the dentist at least 3 times. I was going 4 times a year. but now I've changed my diet so that I don't build up that plaque that I used to, so I don't need to go to the dentist as much, so I at least go to the dentist twice a year. I want to take care of myself. I get sleep. Now, I get up every morning at 4:50, every morning with a few exceptions. If I want to sleep in, I got to go to bed early. So I'm going to get up at 4:50. If I want to sleep in, I want to get extra sleep, I just go to bed early. Sometimes I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, which is just crazy. I guess because I'm old. Number 3 is my family and friends. Friendships that I have give me an incredible life. I can count on them sometimes. Sometimes I hurt my friends, sometimes my friends hurt me. Family. Sometimes my family hurts me, sometimes I hurt my family. None of us have had it easy. Everybody in this room, we have all had setbacks. We've all had tough times. Family. Then number 4 for me is work. I believe that God wants us to work. And number 5 for me is investments. Those are my 5 top priorities. Now, with your priorities that you've got written down, I want you to rate your priorities on a 1 to 10. This is just for you. You don't have to share this unless you want to. Rate your priorities. 10 is you are winning it. You've knocked it out of the park. You're an expert at it. For instance, for me, number 1 being God, that if I rated that a 10, that means I sit with God up there. You know, I can touch, see. That'd be a 10. Health. No physical pain, tons of energy, able to run, do all kinds of things that I want to do, snow ski, all that stuff. Family and friends. I get along with everybody in my family. Or health. I'm diabetic and I'm not taking my medication. I don't sleep enough. I drink. I smoke cigarettes. I overeat. I got high cholesterol. Then you're going to be closer to the 0. Family and friends. Work. Investments. So rate every one of your things. Put a number on it. Right now, my number on God would be about a 7. My health would be a 7. My family and friends, that'd probably be an 8. Work would be about a 7. Investments would be about a 7 or an 8. So how can I improve all of those priorities? For God, that was my number 1 priority. I can go to church. If I gave myself a 6, I can get involved in a church. And if you're not going to church now, I recommend you go to a rich church. Go to a church where people have money. Don't go to a church where people are poor, unless you're going to serve. I go to a church to be fed. I serve all the time. Now when I go to church, I want to be surrounded by people that I can learn from. We need people in our lives that are further down the road of success, whatever those areas of successes are. We need people that are our same level, and then we need people that we can help that are a lower level. So one of the first things I can do is I can go to church consistently. I can read the Bible. I can read other religious books. I can hang out with people that have a strong relationship with God. I can pray consistently. A kid from Mexico told me years ago that he prays on his knees with a stopwatch for 5 minutes every day. I wasn't doing that. So I started praying on my knees for 5 minutes. Some people say, I don't know what to pray about. Well, you pray for other people. And it's not just about us. You pray for Melissa. You pray for Tony. You pray for your daughters. You pray for your wife. You pray for other people. You pray for the state. You pray for the city. 5 minutes is nothing. 10 minutes. I prayed this morning for 10 minutes on my knees. So what actions can we take in order to improve our priorities? Winners take action. Health. What actions can I take for health? I get enough sleep. I exercise. I get feedback from doctors. What actions can I take in order to improve my health? family and friends. This is a picture of my family. Now, it's interesting because this little lady right here, that's my mom. This lady right here is my wife's mom. They were very competitive. This is my father. My brother is not in the picture because we really, at this time, we didn't have a very good friendship. My wife's mother passed away. She died of cancer at age 70. 2 weeks later, my mother died of just old age. She was 80, almost 90 years old when she passed away. Austin and Brad, Austin's right here on the corner, and Brad and Derek and a bunch of other people were there for us. We did hospice at home for both of our mothers. And they came over and we had campouts at the houses. We had people sleeping on floors, sleeping on the sofas and stuff like that. There were always people there. And when my mother-in-law passed, she was surrounded by love. And when my mother passed, she was surrounded by love. We made it through it. Family and friends. Now, this was a few years ago, and the picture is different, but we only put one picture up. Did we only put one picture up? Yeah. Friends. Golly, think of some of the friendships that you haven't reached out to in a long time. Just give them a call. Let them know you're thinking about them. Work. You know, I'm going to work the rest of my life. People say, when are you going to retire? For what? Why would I want to retire? If I'm not doing something productive, if I'm not making a positive difference in people's lives, what's the use of living? I don't want to live and just sit on my butt. I want to make a difference. So this is one of my jobs. I work here at Pacebutler as the CEO of the company. I was talking to a guy today and he was telling me that he wants to be self-employed. I said, why do you want to be self-employed? He said, so I can have the corner office and I can travel and tell people what to do. That's not the reason to own your own business, is it, Tony? If you want to travel and have the corner office get a job where they provide corner offices and travel, right? You travel. If you own a business, owning a business can be the American dream. It can also be the American nightmare. 1987, when I started this business, I got a backpack. Nate talks about backpacks a lot. I got a backpack. I put the backpack on. It's called the business. I sleep with that backpack. I take a shower with the backpack. I make love to my wife with the backpack. I'm in the middle of having sex with my wife and all of a sudden I think about, did we do payroll this week? It's always on my mind. I go on vacation with my backpack. Having a job, a lot of times you can just at 5 o'clock go home. You don't have to worry about doing payroll every 2 weeks. You don't have to worry about the bank. You don't have to worry about the lawyers. You don't have to worry about the insurance companies. You don't have to worry about the employee that just ripped you off. Investments. A lot of people have money. A lot of people have money, and they put their money in the hands of an investor, what do you call those people?
Broker.
A broker or an advisor. Financial advisor. Edward Jones, financial advisors all over the place. If you're going to hire someone to invest your money, I got a question for you to ask them. What is your net worth? You get a financial investor, a financial advisor, and they have a net worth of less than you, why would you want them to advise you on what you should do with your money? I think if you're going to when you get to this right here, when you get to investments, I think you should spend 2 to 4 hours a week to study investments. Spend 2 to 4 hours a week to understand investments. I own real estate. I own this business. I own stocks. I loan money to people. I understand certain investments, but I'm still reading, I'm still learning a ton. So my question is, you wrote down what your priorities are, and you gave it a number where you're at today. My question is, what can you do? What is your plan to raise your number by 1 point for each one of your top 5 priorities? What is your plan? And put a deadline on it when you're going to accomplish that.
Yeah, Robert. Woo!
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So have you ever seen this before?
No, sir.
Okay, great. So what we got here is we got a bucket full of small rocks or pebbles. Okay? And what we're going to ask Robert to do is we're going to ask Robert to put these priorities into this bucket and then be able to put this book on top flat. Simple, right? Okay, so do you mind sharing your 5 priorities with us?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
That's all, I just want to know what you call them.
Okay,
What's,
mine is God.
okay,
family.
God, okay. So put God in the bucket.
Okay.
All right, great. And what's your number 2 priority?
Family.
Family, okay, put your family in the bucket.
Yeah. Let me open this up so I'm good.
All right, what's your number 3 priority?
Success.
All right, put success in the bucket.
All right.
Okay. Already see a little bit of a problem. Okay,
kinda cramped over
what's number 4?
Helping.
Huh?
Helping.
Helping, okay, go ahead and put helping in. Yeah, that's good. Force it in there. All right, number 5.
Growth.
Growth, okay, put growth in there. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Now put the book on top. It doesn't look like it's flat, does it?
No, definitely not.
Okay. So, why don't you take a priority out? Which priority?
Just one?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know that I can choose just one.
Okay, is that growth?
Growth.
Okay, so we're not going to grow anymore. We're just going to, we got 4. Now, it's still not flat, right?
No, I still have to.
So you got to pick another priority out of there that's not,
Right.
yeah.
So, well, I guess I'm going to have to go with this one.
What's that one?
Let's be helping.
Okay, so we're not going to help anybody. We're not going to grow. We're just going to.
Don't call me.
All right, now
Rearranging, not taking out. I'm rearranging.
you're going to rearrange.
Yeah.
All right, can you? Oh, it looked like you could probably get
I'm
the.
almost there.
Yeah. See if you can get
I was
the.
good at Tetris.
All right, now put the book. Great.
Yeah.
Now that's what most people do. That's exactly what most people. I'm so busy. How many times have you said in the last week or so, "I'm too busy. I'm so busy. I can't get it all done." Right? So you're not going to grow and you're not going to help people, but you still have family, you have God, and you have your other priority. What's that?
Success.
Success. So it's going to be kind of difficult to get success without growing and without helping others. And you tried to force it in, right? But it didn't work, okay? We have another way to help you to be able to do it. We have an empty vessel, okay? Now, what's your number 1 priority?
God.
Let's put him in the bucket. Okay, what's number 2?
Family.
All right, let's put family in the bucket. All right, what's next?
Success.
Let's put success in the bucket.
Yeah.
Now, what's next?
Helping.
Okay, let's help some people.
Right here on
All right.
the table.
And what's the last one?
That would be growth.
Growth. All right, let's put the growth in. Now, we got all of your top 5 priorities in there, right? But we got a lot of space left, okay? Do you ever watch television?
Yes.
All right, let's put some television in the bucket, okay? I thought you said you watch television.
That's like a commercial.
Well, I do, but some of the television I watch is, contributed to growth.
Okay, So then you watch more television than just a little bit, right?
Maybe.
Go ahead and put some television in there.
All right.
Put some television
So
in
now we
there.
have to be honest, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have Facebook? Do you have Facebook?
Yes, I do.
Okay. How much Facebook?
Oh, that's
Better pour it now, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's the easiest way. All right. Pour some Facebook in there. All right. All right. Now, what I would recommend you do is kind of shake it down a little bit.
okay.
All right. So now we've kind of got it where it's filling in all the little cracks, right? All right. So, do you ever oversleep? Have any of you ever used this phrase? I'm just wasting time. You probably don't do that with 4 kids and a full-time job 6 days a week, but
Yeah.
let's say some wasting time. Go ahead and put some wasting time in there. Or as some of us call some me time.
Yeah, TV and Facebook, right?
Yeah, yeah. And
Double dipping your time.
what are some other things that we waste our time on that are non-productive? Yes, ma'am?
Gossip.
Gossip?
Ugh.
Well, okay, let's put a little gossip in there. All right, a little gossip.
Might as well throw complaining in there.
Let's all right, do a little complaining.
That, internet.
Doubting.
Internet, somebody said internet. We didn't even go to internet. We just went Facebook, you know, okay,
Is there
internet.
any other internet?
Social media.
All right. What's another thing that you do to waste time?
On social.
Oh, casino. There we go. You ever go to the
There it is.
Procrastinating.
All right, casino. Come on now, you can, let's go ahead and,
Pour some in there.
let's just pour it in there, okay? Pour the whole, let's see if we can get everything in there.
Oh. Nice method.
All right, now can we get the book on top? Oh, you could also shake it down a little bit, couldn't you? Now, get the book on top. So we got all 5 priorities in the bucket. The most important things in our life, we got all the 5 priorities in the bucket. The only thing that if we didn't get in the bucket, it's going to be things that are not that important. It could be Facebook. We're going to cut down Facebook a little bit. We're going to cut down sleep a little bit. We're going to cut down television a little bit. But we got the 5 most important things in the bucket. So the key to this, Robert, is we got to put the most important things in first. If we do that, if you're going to pack a bag, if you're going to go on a trip, and you're going to pack a bag, put the big things in first, and then put the small things in around. If you put the small things in and then try to put the big things in, it won't fit. Thank you for helping us with that. All right.
Now, Robert.
I learned this from a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by Stephen Covey. One of the 7 habits that's extremely important that I need to practice more is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Why do we have a disagreement? Why do we have a problem? This guy was called out to assess a situation. These people had bought a heater to warm their house. They put the heater on the carpet, they turned it on, and the heater burned their carpet, burned a hole in their brand new carpet. They had sent several people out there to take care of the situation, to minimize the situation. Nobody had been able to do it. They sent a guy out there to read the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He went out, he looked at the carpet, and he asked a simple question. What do you want us to do? Nobody had asked that. Everybody had their own solution. So the husband and wife, they talked and everything. They said, you know, the heater's working fine now. It's not on the carpet. They've worked it all out. And you know, the guy's thinking, you know, I don't want to replace the entire carpet for this house, you know, because it's special carpet or something. And he didn't know what to do. They talk and they talk and they talk. And finally they say, you know what would be really nice? We wouldn't really want you to have to replace the carpet, but what we'd like is just have a little rug. If we had a rug and we could put over the burn place, we'd be happy with it. The rug cost $20. He was the third guy to go out there. He was the first one to seek to understand. The book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is an incredible book, and it really helps us It's a best-selling book. It's in the business section. Over 20 million copies of the book. Now, I need another volunteer. Somebody, Amy, would you like to come up here and volunteer for me?
All right, Amy.
All right. In life, we have experiences. When we were born, most of us had mom and dads, and mom and dad might not be around, but we had mom and dads. So I'm going to give you some quarters here. Here, pick up a stack of quarters. And we're going to say, I want you to stack the quarters, okay? Now, these are good experiences. Everything that she's stacking is a good experience. Being born, being healthy, getting out of the hospital, coming home to a loving, kind family. Everything is great. You got brothers and sisters that love you. You got grandparents that love you. You get to go to a great school. You start to learn. You're in the 6th grade. Everything's going really well. And your life is just getting better and better. And so this table's pretty flat, and she's able to stack these quarters. And these quarters represent experiences in our life. And she's learning skills on how to stack quarters. All right, so that's good. So she's been able to put together a life. Now for us, for myself, I start working on developing my life, right? And then all of a sudden something happens and it topples over, okay? What happened was, when I was in the 2nd grade, going to the 3rd grade, I was told I was stupid. I incorporated that I was stupid, that I would not be successful. So instead of this being a flat quarter, it's a bent quarter. This is the 2nd grade. So let's go to about right here, okay? Everything's fine. Life is good. 2nd grade, I find out I'm stupid. It's been verified by my test scores. It's been verified by my family. It's been verified by the psychiatrist. So now I put, oh, this is going to be more difficult than I think. Okay, I put my bent quarter right here. This is a horrible experience in my life. 2nd grade, going into 3rd grade, start stacking. Oh, let me help you a little bit. Let's see if we turn it this way. Will that work better? Whew. We're headed towards the 7th grade. But every time I think about how stupid I am, it falls over. In the 5th grade, I got molested by my school teacher. Not a good deal. That's a bent quarter. In the 7th grade, I got in a horrible fight and lost. That's another bent quarter. I got fired from a job. That's another bent quarter. I went to jail. That's another bent quarter. So just imagine, thank you.
Good job, Amy.
Yeah, all right. Just imagine if you have a lot of bent quarters, a lot of experiences in your life that cause embarrassment, that make us feel bad, and we get success breeds success, and failure can breed failure. But if you remember, when in the 2nd to 3rd grade, I thought I was stupid, I couldn't learn, and then in the 4th grade, I taught Lynette how to spell. And when I taught Lynette how to spell, I didn't flatten the quarter out totally, but it became flatter. Because I was able to take a negative experience and help somebody else to become successful. Being molested in the 5th grade by a school teacher, I didn't tell anybody. And if it had only happened one time, that'd be a different story. But since it happened more than one time, the first time I was a victim, the second time I was not a victim, I was a volunteer. Because I did have something, there was something of value that made me okay with doing it again and again which created secrecy, which created a division between me and everybody else, which created a lot of embarrassment. Until I was 28, 29 years old, I kept it a secret. But when I was 28 or 29 years old, actually, I was 27 years old, and I sat down with a friend of mine that had a similar situation he could not talk about. I felt it. I knew that God was saying, get honest with this guy. Tell him your experience. And I didn't do it. He ended up committing suicide. I could have opened the door. We're as sick as our secrets. I could have used this horrible experience and helped him, and it would have helped my nickel to be flattened. I have a lot of bent nickels in my life, and I'm working on flattening the bent nickels. Everyone in this room has a bent nickel or a bent quarter. I used to do nickels, but they're real hard to stack. I mean, quarters are bad enough, but nickels are almost impossible. Everybody in here has bent quarters. Think about the things that you're embarrassed about, things about you want to, that are difficult, and figure out how to help somebody else to get through it. You know, we're lucky today because my friend Brad Armstrong is going to come up here and share with us his experience. Come on up.
Okay, so my name is Brad Armstrong. I'm the Pacebutler employee. I'm the president of this company. I came on board in 2015 in October. Started at an entry-level position as what we called back then interns. So I kind of helped other people with their accounts. I didn't have my own. I didn't really didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was pretty unemployable, to be completely honest. You know, I had some limiting beliefs. I didn't know what I was doing, and I had a chance that I was given an opportunity, though. You know, and I saw the opportunity. Today, you know, has everybody had a great Saturday? Yeah. Yeah, so did I. I woke up at 7. I was just hanging out with my son, and I normally go to an 8 a.m. men's like kind of fellowship deal to, you know, spirituality type stuff, and so I was like, well, I'm coming here at 9:30. I know it starts at 9:30. You know, I was told that yesterday. I need to be here about 9:15. I'm just going to enjoy the morning with my son and my wife. And I was laying there, and I was just like having the best morning. I got in my car, left a little early. I mean, I'm driving. It's like a Saturday morning drive. I'm just cruising. I'm not in a hurry. I'm listening to my Audible. You know what I mean? I'm just enjoying life. I'm pulling in the parking lot. I'm like, wow, it's already this full. Super impressed, you know, and I pull in and get out of the car, take my time, you know. I lock the door, I'm walking in, and I mean, because I knew it started at 9:30. I mean, I knew this seminar started at 9:30, and I was here for plenty of time, you know. And I walk in the door, and Nick goes, "Hey, Brad, so we actually started at 9 this morning." And I'm like, what? Like, I mean, is it possible like that what you know is wrong? Yep. You know? Absolutely. You know, and then that's like if you're here this morning on a Saturday morning, if you're here and if you're into this kind of thing at all, if you want to get better, if you want to grow, you know what I mean? I've got to be challenged with the thoughts that maybe what I know, and I'm talking, I knew this thing started at 9:30, Bryson. I mean, I knew in the way, and some of y'all have been with me when I'm in a hurry. It's almost dangerous, you know what I mean? Because I'm not late. I don't come late to anything, you know. Unless I have to. But I knew it started at 9:30. So the way I was driving dictated that. The actions I was taking all the way to get here would have shown you that I knew this thing started at 9:30. But was I right? Apparently not. Y'all are here earlier at 9 on time. Good job. You know. But it's like, how many things in my life, how many beliefs do I have, how many things that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt still today are wrong. You know, like that's why I continue to go to stuff like this. You know, like that's why I continue to want to be better. That's why I continue to want to self-examine. Like there's tons of things I know right now that I don't even know I'm wrong about. You know, and it's like when I come to stuff like this and I get to listen, Tom, thank you so much for doing this, man. Good job. You know, because a lot of y'all don't know that Tom and I are supposed to be getting off a lift about right now at Park City going down our first run. You know, we had a ski trip planned and to go out. I mean, paid for. time off. We had the live pad. We had the whole 9 yards, man. Tom and I enjoy, that's our thing. We love to go skiing together. Like that's, we get a lot of quality time in on the mountain. And so, when he realized that this was booked at the same time, like, I mean, what a guy, to choose to come here to feed us, you know what I mean? As opposed to being, I don't know if you've been to Park City, but it's nice. The weather's perfect. I mean, I got the powder report this morning. And there's another thing I knew. I was going to be in Park City today. I bought the gloves. I bought the ski mask. I got the stuff to live. That's actions that I took based on something I knew that wasn't true. The variables don't really matter. So. If you're here, like I really want you to challenge yourself. What do I know right now that's not true? That's helped me. That's served me. There's a lot of things in life that I do today. Like I want to be served through my actions. I want to be served through the things I'm reading, watching, listening to. You can use Facebook to serve you. It's hard for me because it's super distracting, and I see a squirrel and I'm like, whoa, But there's certain things in my life that serve me, and that wasn't always the case. Obviously, there's a lot of things that I just knew, in my life that weren't true. I didn't come here from Sunday. Tom didn't meet me at that rich church. Say, hey, rich church Brad guy, come to work with us. You know what I mean? Like, I met Tom, golly, I was probably 18, 19 years old. And I was struggling. I got thrown out of the house my senior year because I didn't want to cooperate with the rules there. And I say that I got kicked out. Like that was a belief of mine. Like my parents threw me out on the street in senior year of high school. Like what you know what I mean? Of course my life ended up like this. I never met my biological father. Of course I have a bad life. Of course I have abandonment issues. Of course I could blame everything. I was good at it. I could make you be like, man, I'd drink like that too, Bryson, if I was Brad. You know what I mean? Like, that guy had a rough life. The truth is, I chose to leave because I didn't want to participate in the rules. I didn't want to be home by 9. You know what I mean? I didn't want to not drink or do drugs in my parents' house. Like, that's kind of a big deal. That's a deal breaker, so to speak. And so I had ended up in down here on 23rd in class, and it's called the Referral Center, TRC. It's a medically detox program. So by 19 years old, I was getting curious about quitting drinking and drugging. But even at 19 years old, it would already have taken a medical doctor to detox me off of those chemicals because of how much I was ingesting. So it wasn't like I was headed for success, and Tom came into that facility and with a group of guys, and there was a light in his eyes. A bunch of people came in and came out, and he pulled me aside and he said, he asked me some questions, and he gave me he offered me an opportunity to come up, which I declined. No thanks, I got it. I'm going to figure it out. I'm stay down. I'm from Norman. I'm going to be in Norman. That's pretty far up there, northwest side of Oklahoma City. I've got all my friends and stuff here. Like, thank you though, really. I got this. How many times have I said thank you, I got this. And so it wasn't. I would continue to bounce in and out of that place, and we would always kind of find each other along the path. And then one time I did in 2009. I took. He said, "Hey man, you're at the end of your ropes." I think I had people probably looking for me down in Norman. I was trying to get away from anyway. It's a good time to move to the city. And so I moved up here and worked at Pacebutler for, I think, about 3 months. And man, in them 3 months, I did some really good things. My little manager at the Pacebutler was like, man, you broke records today. I've always been a great starter. Like, always. I've always shown up, and I got this enthusiasm, and I got great, and I just start off great, and then something happens, man. I derail. I can't finish anything. I can't stay committed. I never have. And you know what? Like, that was the belief of who I was. It was in my core. Like, I always start out great. That's why I love new jobs. I was like super popular for like a month, and then where'd he go? Because as soon as something that comes into I don't agree with, or I don't like, or I don't believe, I'm taking my ball and going home. I used to play football with this kid in my neighborhood, man. His parents a little better off than us, you know what I mean? So he always had like the real football, you know what I mean? Like the nice one, you know, and the basketball, like the good, you know what I mean? The goods, like, but he was terrible at the sport, you know what I mean? All of them, just in general, poor kid, you know? But like, he had the ball, you know? So like, we would have to kind of cater to him and let him score touchdowns or whatever, because we knew as soon as something happened that he didn't agree with or he didn't like, he'd take his ball and go home. And we'd be like, oh man, we got to use the toilet paper roll now for the football. You know, like, it was not a fun deal. So that was me in life. If something happened in relationships, friendships, spouses, whatever, like I loved for people to kind of, you know, treat me wrong so I could have an excuse to leave, go do what I wanted anyway. You know, and so I ran into Tom in 2009, and you know, I started off real well, and then I went missing. But something happened. Something happened in 2009, and I got something planted in me as far as like I saw what success looked like, and there's just like I got curious. I got curious to like, what if? Because I'd always thought like, if you're poor, you stay poor. You know, if you're rich, it's because you were born rich. You know what I mean? Or your parents died and they gave you their money, or you got super lucky. You know what I mean? Like just 1 in a million. Like I didn't understand that there was work and commitment to becoming financially wealthy. I didn't know that anybody could do it. And in America, anybody can become financially successful. Anybody. You know, it's just having healthy habits. You know what I mean? Staying committed and understanding the law of compounding. You know, and I've learned that. So in 2009, like I didn't like get it together then, but I got curious about getting it together. And I stayed in contact with Tom. Unfortunately, I decided to continue using and drinking and just, you know, it went from bad to worse. Like when you understand the law of compounding, how it can work for you, you know, there's also a negative side to that. And it worked in reverse. You know, I went from sleeping on people's couches to within a matter of years, I was sleeping in a bush, or in an abandoned building, or on top of buildings, or under bridges, or and I didn't sleep inside for 3 years. So I went 3 years of sleeping. You see guys with the signs, you know, we'll work for food or need money or voila, I need a beer. You know what I mean? Like I always tried to put something funny on my sign. You know what I mean? Like if I could get you to laugh, I could probably get you to break bread. You know, you hear me? So that was my deal. You know, need $5 for karate lessons. Ninja stole my wife or something. You know, like see, because you know you see that, it's like, oh man, here's a buck. You know, a good laugh's worth $1. You know, so and but I didn't understand like what those chemicals were doing to my body and my brain, and I would call. But one thing that Tom always did, man, he'd answer my call. You know, this guy's worth millions. He's got this business to run. He's got all this stuff, and he would always take time to answer my call. You know, I landed myself in Cleveland County Detention Center 2015, and in February 18th. So it's coming up. What's today's date?
15.
But what?
15.
Huh. So 5 years ago, I was about to just embark on one of the worst, what I thought the worst things ever. You know, and I ended up in Cleveland County Detention Center, and for kidnapping. You know, and I'd accidentally kidnapped my girlfriend. I don't know if you guys have ever done that or not, or related, but apparently if someone feels fearful from leaving a situation, that's kidnapping in the state of Oklahoma. And there's no difference than me throwing a kid. That right there is the same charge as if I would have gotten a van and grabbed a kid at a bus stop. There's no separation in the state of Oklahoma between those two. The only thing that accelerates that is if I use a ransom note. A ransom, if I would have said, hey, look, I'll bring her back for a 6-pack. You know what I mean? Like that accelerates it. So, once again, I didn't mean to. I just didn't mean to. You know, I was a guy that always just did stuff I just didn't mean to. Or God, if I meant to do this, this, and this. You know, and so I'm in county jail, and I'm looking at 25 to life. You know, because it's in my first rodeo. You know, and I've never been to prison, and I sure don't want to find out what it's like. You know, and luckily, the library cart rolls around. And there's a book, Mentor. You know, the kid and the CEO. And I remembered that 2009 experience I have with Tom, and he keeps his number on the back of that book. And for that, I'm grateful, because there wasn't anyone answering my calls. There wasn't no money on the books. There wasn't no coffee getting, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have a great time in jail. So if you've got like loved ones struggling, incarcerated, please let them struggle. Golly, it did everything for me. It created a desperation. Like, there's people here. I'm not here talking to everybody today. I wish I was. I really wish I was. But the truth is that not everybody in this room is as tired as they need to be of the habits that they're doing that are compounding negatively in their life. Like, I wish I could raise the bottom for you. But I'm talking to one or two people here today that are so sick of going to the ATM, checking their balance, and not being where they need it to be. They're so sick of calling the electric company and saying, hey, look, I just need an extension for this long. Or, hey, look, I just need this, or I need that. Like, there's somebody, I don't know what your bottom doesn't have to be facing 25 to life. Mine did. Awesome. But yours doesn't have to be. You can pick whatever you want, wherever you want to get done with the bad actions that are creating the life that you don't want. And if you're here, you're seeking for something. And that's why I called Tom. And what's funny is, like, he'd ask me these, Tom, this brilliant CEO, he's done all this, and I'm on the phone, I got his number off the book, and I'm like ready. I need help, and I'm done playing. I got so to a point, man, I just wanted somebody to be willing to teach me something. Because I've gone through my whole life telling everybody I know. No, yeah, I know, but you don't get it. No, I know, but. And I just got to a point where I wanted somebody to still be willing to teach me something, and he was there. And so I'm calling him, and he's asking me questions like, hey, Brad, who's the president of the United States? And I'm like, I'm answering these questions. Hey, what's your birth date? Tom, like, this is a $4 phone call, man. Like, you know what I mean? I only get 15 minutes. Like, he'd ask me like 4 or 5 questions, pay for the whole 15 minutes, and then hang up on me. Not like rudely, but like, all right, see you. Call me tomorrow. Bye. And I'm like, that's weird, man. And so, and I'm in there, and this is, by the time I got to about, I think I'd been in county for 8 months. And I had just gone to, if anybody's unfamiliar with the prison system or whatever, like they come offer you all these deals, you know what I mean, while you're incarcerated before you go to trial so that they can get a conviction and hopefully you'll get a lesser sentence if you're guilty or whatever. Well, they had just came to me, they offered me this deal. It was called a split 20. So I did, 20 years would be my sentence, but 10 of it I'd have to do in prison, and 10 of it I could do on the streets if I got out and did good. And I was like, I'm taking it. And I went to go sign this deal, and then the DA pulls it off the table and says, look, that's not enough time for you, Brad. We're not going to agree to this deal. We want 25 years. And it got real. And I called Tom, and here's Tom on the other end of the phone, and Tom's going, hey, Brad, I think I got an idea. And I'm like, okay. I needed something bad. What's this? I mean, we got a plan. I didn't know if he was going to go get one of those trucks to drive through the jail. And like, I was going to jump in with them. We were going to drive off to freedom. You know what I mean? Like, yes, a little identity change down in Puerto Vallarta or something. I didn't know. Like, I need something big. And he says, I want you to get a hold of your, and I used to refer to my lawyer as a public pretender. You know what I mean? He was my public defender, and I used to disrespect that man and call him a public pretender. And that's the first thing he corrected me about. He said, no, Brad, that man's a public defender. I want you to get a hold of him, and I want you to set a motion. We need a date in court for a bond reduction. I'm like, Tom, I do not think you're hearing me, man. Like, I tried to do this little thing. I'm wheeling and dealing. And I'm telling him, like, I don't think this is going to. And I remember the tone in his voice, what he said, so clear. He said, so you're still going to be telling me how things work inside county jail, facing 25 to life. You're still running the show, huh, Brad? And something inside of me broke. And I was just like, man, I'm done. Like, here I am. Can't get $5 for a bag of coffee on the commissary. I'm facing 25 years in prison. I'm guilty. I'm not even trying to deny it. Like here I am. And I'm still telling this man who's been successful at a business, helping so many people just like me, I'm still telling him how to do stuff. Like, When's it going to stop? You know, and I got real willing to listen. And I said, okay. And so I went to my public defender, and he kind of laughed at me. He's like, Brad, I was like, please just do it. I don't, you know, he's like, they're going to laugh you out of that courtroom. And I said, okay, well then we'll get laughed out of the courtroom. They wouldn't even sign the last thing. It's not going to be a difference. Plus, like, I'll get out of jail for a little bit, you know, like, get to go to court, you know. And it's so funny. Like, I was in court, and I'm handcuffed to this guy, like, this little kid, like, and he's just talking. He's in there for a public drunk or something. He's getting out. He's happy. And I'm like, yeah, for you. You know, they handcuffed me with, you know, I'm handcuffed to Chatty Cathy over here, you know. And we were the only two left because everybody had gone. And we were waiting on Tom to come into the courtroom. And he says, has the witness arrived? Yes, sir, he has. And in comes Tom. And this Chatty Cathy next to me goes, oh my God, I didn't know that your witness was a celebrity. You know, like, only in the prison system. like the judge, like, he was like starstruck. He's like, do you think he'll sign my book? I was like, maybe, man. He goes, I'm trying to get out of jail though. Can you be quiet? You know? And so like, he walked in, and I'll never forget it because he's Norman's out of his element. He's up here, you know, and he walks in, and the judge is like, I remember the DA saying, so what kind of program is this? And he's like, well, it's not so much a program, it's a mentorship. I'd like an opportunity to mentor this guy. He's sick, he's not bad. I know where to take him to get well. You know what I mean? It's not he doesn't need to get good, he needs to get well. You know, like, I got a piece of dignity back. You know, here's this man telling this judge that I wasn't a sick guy, or I wasn't a bad guy. You know, I'd been for 8 months not allowed to look at a female. Anytime that the females come, they face on the wall. I'm an animal. I'm an animal in there. 8 months of that? You know, and here I am. And he goes to, and so the DA's like, oh, so this isn't a program? You're just some guy? And he looked at this guy, he said, I am just some guy with a lot of connections and a lot of experience helping people. And he doesn't need to go to prison, he needs to get better. And if you'll allow me, release him to my custody, and he'll work for me, he'll stay sober. If he's playing any games, I'll bring him right back. I thought, oh God. And so they go on to put all these stipulations on top of me. Oh, well, he's got to be here every Thursday. He's got to wear an ankle monitor. He's got to do this. And Tom, you know, he's a good, I guess, negotiator. He was like, take him back to jail right now. You know, and I'm like, Tom, I'm almost out. And the judge, it kind of took her by surprise. Like, what do you mean take him back? Like, we're going to release him. We just have to make sure. He's like, I'm going to do that. He's like, if you're going to expect a guy with no vehicle, no money, no anything to get from the northwest Oklahoma City to Norman and back every Thursday, plus keep a job, plus pay you your fines, like, you're crazy. Take him back to jail. He'll get in less trouble. And so, like, the judge thought about it and released me to his custody. So on October 23rd of 2015, I heard Brad Armstrong bunking jump. You know, what that means is that I got to pack my stuff and walk out of the county jail. Now, I've done this 100 times. Literally. 100 times. What's different? What's going to be different this time? I'm a guy that always goes to jail. I'm the guy that always gets out of trouble, just barely. I'm the guy that barely gets away with it. What's going to be different this time? This time I walked out and I didn't know what to expect. I'm in Norman. It's 9:30 at night on a Friday night. They're releasing me. Couldn't wait till Monday. And lo and behold, Tom's sitting in booking. I don't know how he got to go there, but he was just standing there. And he walks me outside. He said, you hungry? Yeah, been hungry for 8 months. He's like, let's go eat. And he opens the car, and Leslie and Abby are in there. You know, that's his wife and his daughter. He says, get in. He didn't say sit in the front so I can sit in back with my daughter. And he said, get in. And Abby just hugged me up. She loved on me. Leslie did. They were so happy. They ran up. And I got a little more dignity. You know, and that started my journey. That started my journey. And I got here and I believed it. You know, and I don't know what you guys got to do. I don't know how to raise the bottom for whatever's like holding you back. But before I had to examine how to become more successful, I had to examine how to stop becoming less. I don't know if that, you know what I mean? Like, I had to figure out what needed to be removed in order for me. I had to take out the bent quarter. You know, drugs and alcohol were my bent quarter. You know, I've found some more. You know, that was like the one, the real big bit one. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't nothing's going on after this quarter. There ain't no, I'm not stacking one or two nothings on top of it, you know. And when I got that out, I've been able to find some more bent quarters, some limiting beliefs. You know, and I don't want to, that's why I say today, like, I've got to be able to ask myself, like, can what I know be wrong? Because if what I know can't be wrong, I can't change. When he's up here talking about I'm worth $8 million, must be nice, buddy. You know, if you had that thought, you're not alone. But you got to look for inspiration. You can't, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be inspired by people that have more than what I have. When he goes over his 5 rocks or his 5 whatever, I know Tom very well. We're very good friends. And I know he puts his time and his money in all those things. But how many people wrote down on your 5 rocks what you'd like it to be, but you don't spend any time there or any money on it? If you want to know what your 5 rocks really are, go to your bank account. Those are your 5 rocks. Where's your money going? Where's your time spent? And I don't mean like time you're getting paid for. Like, oh, well, yeah, work is a priority of mine. I spend 40 hours there and I get paid at $500 for it. Like, how much time do you spend on work while you're not being paid for work? How much time do you spend on becoming I want to be a professional at my craft. You know, I've got some more beliefs. I've got some bigger dreams now. I'm reading a book too that The Power of Consistency. I want to be able to go around and talk to the world. It starts right here. And like, who are you? Do you know what my first thought is when that crept in my head? Who are you? Who do you think you are? You're a felon. You've never been anything. You're never going to be anything. Who's going to want to listen? How do you think you can make a difference to people? Why do you even want to? You know, like that's what goes on in my head. As soon as I think of something really like, God, I want to do this, and then I'm my own enemy. Instantly. Who do you think you are? You know? I was so afraid to try, like really try, Julie. I mean, try. I mean, give it my all. I mean, give it my everything in this company. You know why? Because what if I did and it didn't work? What if I really tried, like, because I could always sit back, well, man, I didn't really care about that company anyway. I didn't really, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even try. I was just there to get a paycheck. I mean, I could have ran that thing better than anybody. How many times have I said that? How many employees of yours have said that? You know, how many people? There's so many people that are really good at interviewing. They're so good at interviews because they get a lot of them. You know what I mean? They're always looking for a new job. You know, because the last one didn't treat them well. Like, God, you are the best interviewer. You know, like, well, yeah, I do it once a month. I don't want to be a good interviewer. I don't. I want to be committed. I want to continue to do stuff. I want to be the guy that you can count on. Like, that's my passion. I want to be able to take other people with me. And it's okay, you know. It's okay to want to win. It's okay. It's okay to believe. When you walked in here, probably you were on time, so 8:45 this morning. It's okay to believe that when you leave at noon or 12:30, whatever time you leave this, it is okay to think that you're going to be different. That's okay. It's okay to just completely get sold on an idea that's so incredible it changes your whole destiny. I did. And I'm forever grateful for it. Thank you so much, Tom.
One of the reasons why I want to do good in life is because I know that Brad's watching me. And I know that if I do things that could lead him down the wrong path, he could end up back in the bush. Or he could die. Since 1983, a lot of people that I have led have died. The guy in 1983 that told me that if I ever wanted to stop drinking, I should go around people that don't drink. And there was a group over on Western that I could go to. And so he's planted a seed for me, and he went, I went over there 6 weeks after he told me about that. And we continued our friendship. He got clean and sober also, and for about 6 months, and then he relapsed. And then he tried to get back on the right track, and then he relapsed again, and so forth. And then one day, I was chairing a meeting of these people, and he walked in late, and he looked at peace, incredible peace, very happy. And I hadn't seen Mark that happy in a long time. Right before the meeting ended, he jumped up and left. The next day, I called him to see if he wanted to go to another meeting. I was talking to his mom. There was a silence on the phone. And then she told me that Mark shot himself that night. He went home from that meeting and he shot himself. He ended his life. In times when I thought about relapsing myself, when I thought about drinking, going back and drinking and doing drugs, I thought about, I don't want the seed that Mark planted to be a waste. I want to use this. I don't want to let him down. And that's another reason why I've stayed clean and sober. So I want to set the right example for Brad and Brad's and Bryson and a lot of people. I want to do the right things. One of the reasons I donate books to jails and prisons is someday I might end up in a jail or prison. And I want that jail and prison to be as nice as possible. I want friendly people there. I want people talking about God, not all about hate. So hopefully that'll never happen. The next thing is we're going to talk about an inventory. Now, many people never ever consider doing the first thing was writing down your priorities. They're really not going to talk about this, okay? This is what I call a personal inventory. In order to do this, you need to have a notebook, a pen, and some privacy. There's about 5 steps to this. It's really simple, but not easy. The very first one is, who are you mad at and why? Now, this could be a person that you're mad at. This could be an institution. This could be an ex-employer. This could be a company. This could be the government. Anything that when you think about that, you get mad. And so I recommend that you take this notebook, take some time and write it down. Now, a lot of us, when we first sit down with this, we think, I'm not mad at anybody. I love everybody. Life is wonderful. What about the cop that pulled you over to give you a speeding ticket when you were in a hurry to get to your job because they told you that if you don't show up on time, you're fired? What about the fact that they sold you a set of tires and they didn't put them on right, and you're driving down the highway at 70 miles an hour and you have a blowout and you hit the side rail and you destroy your car? What about the 5th grade teacher that molested you? You mad at that person? So you write down who you're mad at and why. Could be a sibling, could be a parent. You write down who we're mad at and why. Take some time. The hardest thing to do is to think. One of the hardest things we do is think. Think about who you're mad at. Take some time. Take a day. Take a week. Who you're mad at. Anybody in here mad at the IRS? They take a chunk of money out of your check every time. The next step, after you do that, you write about who you're mad at and why, whether it's a person, an institution, a place. The next one is, who's mad at you and why? Maybe you got kids that you weren't a great parent to. Maybe you got an employer that fired you because whatever the reason was. Who is mad at you and why? Could it be an institution? Could be the IRS. They want the money that you owe them, Who's mad at you and why? Take some time, write it out. The next one is, what are you afraid of? What are your fears? I have a fear of speaking in front of people. What am I going to do about it? But I write down fears. Fear of getting a disease, a fear of getting in an automobile accident, a fear that something's going to happen to my children. What are my fears? Write them down. Take some time, a couple of days, write your fears down. Think about it. Sex life. We all have sex problems. Either we don't have any sex, could be a problem, or we've had the wrong kind of sex, or we've had situations like with me being molested, or we had an unwanted pregnancy, or we had a pregnancy out of wedlock, or we got a venereal disease. If you ever get one of those, don't go to the public place. go to your doctor. It's a lot more, what do you call it? I don't know. It's not as embarrassing. We'll put it that way. So you write down your sex life. Everything about your sex life, real or imagined. Things that you know, maybe you use a fantasy that's you wouldn't want anybody to know about, you know? So you write down your sex life. And then the fifth one. What are your secrets? What is something you're going to take to your grave you don't want anybody to know about? You might not want them to know about it because you could end up in prison. You write it down. You write it down in code if that's what it takes. What are your secrets? So you got all this, you got a notebook, you got all this stuff, you're feeling horrible, you're feeling good, you finally wrote it down, now you can start looking at it logically instead of just emotionally. What do you do with it? Tell your inventory to someone you trust. Confess. Catholics have been doing it for a long time. But really share with someone your inventory, somebody you trust. The last one I did was a couple of years ago. I sat down with a gentleman. His occupation, he's an attorney. He says, Tom, do you have $1 on you? I said, I do. He said, can I have it? I said, sure. So I gave him $1. He said, I am now your attorney. You are now my client. You now have attorney-client privilege. Anything you say is between me and you, even if you've broken some laws. I haven't broken any laws that I'm worried about going to prison about, you know, speeding and that kind of stuff, but nothing serious. So I was able to do complete confession. Most of the stuff I needed to talk about were my selfish, self-centered actions that had harmed other people, that created guilt and shame within me. Guilt is I did something wrong. The action was wrong. The action was wrong. Shame is I'm wrong. I did something wrong, but I take that on personally and I say, something's wrong with me. That's shame. Guilt is, sure, my foster son, he murdered somebody. He was guilty of murder. But he didn't feel ashamed about it at all. He justified it. He justified murdering this person because this person was doing actions that were harming other people in prison, and he decided to put this guy's life out. He was guilty of the crime, but he did not have any shame. He didn't feel bad about it. Matter of fact, he felt victorious about it, and he felt like the hero because he eliminated this guy. Tell someone your inventory. If you were to do these things, if you were to write an inventory of those areas that we talked about, who's mad at you and why? Who are you mad at and why? Who's mad at you and why? What are your fears? What is your sex life? And what are your secrets? We all start out with a blank chalkboard. Nothing's on the board. We're itty-bitties. We're babies. And then our sibling gets a toy. We like the toy. Our sibling doesn't want to share the toy, so we steal the toy. But we can't play with the toy, because if we play with the toy, the sibling will see it and take it back. So maybe we destroy the toy. Maybe we throw the toy in the lake so the sibling can't play it. If I can't play with it, they're not going to get to play with it. So we put that up on the chalkboard. That's one of the things. Now my sibling would be mad at me if they knew that I destroyed their favorite toy. So I write that down. And then I write down another thing and another thing, and before long my entire chalkboard is full of experiences over 62 years of life. All these things. I want a do-over. I want to start fresh. How do I do that? I tell someone my inventory, and since I'm a Christian, I ask Jesus to forgive me. And I believe that Jesus will forgive me logically, but emotionally I have a problem with that. If I hit my thumb with a hammer, I am going to feel pain. It's going to hurt. And if Brad comes up to me and says, "Does it hurt?" that's not going to make the pain go away. I don't know why anybody does that. You know, the guy was running today and he fell, and you know, it was tempting to say, "Are you okay?" You know, I mean, it's just pain. But I'm not going to give up building a house or building a building because I hit my thumb with a hammer, because the pain will go away eventually. And then when it goes away, I can start hammering again. When you tell your inventory to someone else, first time I ever did it, I drove over 100 miles to find someone that I knew I would never see again, that had an experience in listening to people's inventories, and I told him everything. It took 8 hours. And I made some decisions and some changes that I wanted to do. And at the time, I wasn't really sure. I wanted to believe in God, but I wasn't really sure. I drove all the way home. It was December the 19th. I had no money. I was 2 months behind on the rent. I get home. I go in. I see the mail in the mailbox. I pull the mail out. I go into the house. I open it. I set the mail out, and there's a credit card from Visa. Someone at Visa decided to give me credit. I had no credit before. I really didn't have a consistent job, I don't think. I didn't have a job. And there's a credit card with $2,000 line of credit with Visa checks. Robert, this is a God deal. God sent me a credit card. I take my credit card. I go up to my friends at lunchtime. I say, "Let's go to lunch. It's on me," because they've been buying me lunch for a while. I go to lunch with them. I come home. I write a couple of checks. I pay the rent. I get the rent caught up. I go to the store. I buy everybody Christmas gifts. I max the credit card out. $2,000. Done. Less than 24 hours. Not hard to do. 8 years later, I'm still paying on that credit card. I wasn't able to reduce the debt. It took me over 9 years to pay that off. Wow. It was not a God deal. I think Satan sent me the credit card. Why did I not pay it off? Because I was paying the minimum, and every time I'd pay the minimum, I would take my credit card out and I'd buy something else. And I kept that thing maxed out till I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired of carrying a debt on a credit card at 18 or 21%. And I put that credit card, I tore it up. From Dave Ramsey taught me how to take some power over those credit cards. Things you have to do to be successful. There's only two things. Brad mentioned them a few minutes ago. Number one is great habits, and number two is the law of compounding. Number one is great habits, and number two is the law of compounding. Great habits come from routines. When I first started in 1983 to change my life, I used to get up at 2:30 in the afternoon. That was a habit. I would stay up all night, sleep as long as I could, get up at 2:30 in the afternoon. That was a habit. It was automatic. I didn't have to think about it. But then I decided I wanted to change my life. I wanted to do something productive. So I made a decision that what I was going to do is I was going to get up before noon. And so my goal was to get up before noon, and that became a routine. I'd get up at 11 o'clock. I'd scurry over to the group that started, the meeting started at 12 o'clock. So that's what I would do. Then I decided I wanted to get up at 10 o'clock. And I started getting up at 10 o'clock. Then I started at Pacebutler, and I decided I wanted to get up so I could be at the office at 8 o'clock. And a lot of times I overslept. About 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I made a decision that I was going to get up at 5 o'clock every morning from now on. And so I made that goal, and I had the routine, and I had an alarm clock. I used my cell phone. I also used a negative consequence to make sure that I stuck with this routine. Now, I'm going to show you a real simple way to do this, and this can be life-changing, okay? So, what is this?
A 50,
Is it a real one?
as far as I can tell.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. What is this?
It's a 50.
Do you think it's real?
I think so.
Does anybody in here, do you think this is real?
Ooh, yeah, or a really good copy.
Okay. This is a real $50 bill. Okay. Anybody, do you think it's a real $50 bill?
Sure.
Okay. Tony? Robert?
I believe it.
Okay. So here's the deal. If I'm not out of bed before 5:02, if I look over my digital alarm clock and it's 5:02, I have to shred the $50 bill. Now, when I just shredded this $50 bill, did any of you have a feeling in your stomach that,
Where's the tape? Oh, there's no tape.
now, for some people, for me, $50 is not that much money today. But this used to be a lot of money, okay? So I have to use a different consequence. It's called the ALPO commitment. ALPO. I read a book called Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins overheard a conversation between these women, and they were talking about losing weight. And this one lady said, well, I want to weigh this. And another lady said, I want to weigh this. And Tony said, you got to get some leverage behind it. He said, okay, by the end of the month, 30 days from now, what do you want to weigh? And the lady told him, and the other lady said, and so he takes a can of Alpo. And he says, if you do not weigh what you're saying you want to weigh or less, you will eat this can of Alpo. So it's a really great symbol, a can of Alpo. So they would go to have lunch, and they could take their can of Alpo with them and set it on the table. It's a time to stop eating. When you're full, stop eating. I don't always do that. Sometimes I just eat and eat and eat. I feel like a bloated horse, especially at Golden Corral, right? So that is a negative consequence. Ripping up a $50 bill, if I'm not out of bed, that's a negative consequence. I've slept outside. I have a beautiful house with a nice Tempur-Pedic bed. I do not like sleeping outside, but I've slept outside on the back porch with just a blankie and no pillow because I made a commitment to do something and I didn't do it, and the commitment was if I didn't do what I was supposed to do, I'd sleep outside. How do we get great habits? We have a routine. We do the routine over and over and over and over, and then it becomes automatic. The first time we drove a standard shift car, we had to use our conscious mind to do it. We had to practice, and it was very difficult, and we couldn't get it done. And then all of a sudden one day we're shifting gears, having a sandwich, and lighting a cigarette. It became automatic. Habits are automatic. Routines take conscious thought. Okay. Now, the law, let's see where we're at. The law of compounding. Brad mentioned that also. So here is 2 books that are really, really great about establishing habits and why habits are important. The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, or whatever it is. I like the next guy. His name is James Clear. Atomic Habits. These are 2 great books about habits. One of the things that he talks about in Atomic Habits is, I used to smoke cigarettes. I got up to where I was smoking over 2.5 packs of cigarettes a day. And one of the benefits of smoking cigarettes is there's an instant gratification. Taking the cigarette out of the pack, the procedures, the ritual of smoking cigarettes, taking it out of there, lighting the cigarette, getting the smell, getting the taste, the aroma, and all that stuff, there's an immediate gratification. The problem with smoking cigarettes is it causes cancer. You shrivel up, you die a very painful death, you burn yourself, you burn your clothes, you make your house smell bad. All that stuff is a negative consequence, but it's not there with the positive consequence of the instant gratification. And that's why it's so easy to have bad habits. Because bad habits give us immediate gratification. Saving money. Okay, I've saved $1,000. I feel really good. I've delayed gratification. I've saved $1,000, but you got a big TV and I don't have one. So I go buy a television. I take out the $1,000. I buy a television. I didn't really need it. I had a TV, but I went and bought another television. I didn't buy a used one. I bought a brand new one. Immediate gratification. Long-term return would be that I leave the $1,000 in, I let the $1,000 to grow, and then I buy a television just off the interest. Both of these are really, really good books. My morning routine. There's a guy that wrote a book called The Miracle Morning. The Miracle Morning. Isn't that a cool name? The Miracle Morning. Well, he had a routine. He documented it. He put it in a book. He sold thousands and thousands of copies. People watch his YouTube videos. They pay him a lot of money just to find out what his routine is. Here's my routine. Wake up at 4:50 every morning. I woke up this morning at 4:50. I listen to something positive. I have YouTube Premium. And so what I do is I go on YouTube and I find different people that have information that I want to learn about. Whether it's, I listened to Rick Warren this morning do a sermon. I listen to people about how to run businesses, how to communicate, how to snow ski. You can learn so much. You can fix your boat by YouTube. So every morning, the first thing I do after I wake up at 4:50, I put a plug in my ear, earphone, Bluetooth, and I start listening to positive stuff. Then I do push-ups. I go down the hall and I drink a protein drink and I take vitamins. Every day I take vitamins and I do a protein shake at the very beginning. Then I read a chapter of the Purpose Driven Life book. I do this every day. I'm not into the 200s yet, over 120. I feel pretty good about that. But like Brad was talking about, I want to be inspired by what you've done. You definitely set the record, Melissa. I don't know of anybody that...
Well, thank you. You know what kept me going was knowing that you were doing the same thing. Truly.
So,
I thought about stopping a few years ago.
I'm glad you're still doing it. Definitely. And then I pray for 10 minutes every morning. That's my morning routine. I get up at 4:50. I normally leave the house about 7. That's how long it takes. And there's some other things that I do in there with my wife. My wife told me probably 15 years ago that she wanted to quit working full time. I said, that's fine on one condition. You get up with me every morning so that we're on the same schedule. We sit together and we got our 2 very expensive chairs that she had custom made. We sit up, we get up in the morning. We get up in the morning. Just joking, honey, if you watch this video, okay? So we get up every morning and we spend time together. She reads Jesus Calling to Me. I read a little bit out of the Purpose Driven Life. We talk about life. So when she wanted to retire from work, I said, fine, but just get up with me in the morning. She does stay up later than I do. I don't know how she does that because I only get about 7 hours of sleep, and so she gets less. Okay, I want to talk about this. I have a bicycle that nobody in here can ride. It's called a backward bicycle. Now what this is the importance of habit, things that are automatic, things that once we know how to do something, it's very difficult to change the habit. There's a saying, once you know how to ride a bicycle, you always know how to ride a bicycle. You might be a little rusty, but after you get back on the bike, it's really easy to ride the bicycle. And so we got a little video. It's about 9 minutes long, 7 minutes long. So we're going to watch the video.
Hey, it's me, Destin. Welcome back to Smarter Every Day. You've heard people say it's just like riding a bike, meaning it's really easy and you can't forget how to do it, right? But I did something. I did something that damaged my mind. It happened on the streets of Amsterdam, and I got really scared, honestly. I can't ride a bike like you can anymore. Before I show you the video of what happened, I need to tell you the backstory. Like many 6-year-olds with a MacGyver mullet, I learned how to ride a bike when I was really young. I had learned a life skill and I was really proud of it. Everything changed though when my friend Barney called me 25 years later. Where I work, the welders are geniuses and they like to play jokes on the engineers. He had a challenge for me. He had built a special bicycle and he wanted me to try to ride it. He had only changed one thing. When you turn the handlebar to the left, the wheel goes to the right. When you turn it to the right, the wheel goes to the left. I thought this would be easy, so I hopped on the bike ready to demonstrate how quickly I could conquer this.
And here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Destin Sandlin. First attempt riding the bicycle.
All right. So the faster I
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. You can see that I'm laughing, but I'm actually really frustrated. In this moment, I had a really deep revelation. My thinking was in a rut. This bike revealed a very deep truth to me. I had the knowledge of how to operate the bike, but I did not have the understanding. Therefore, knowledge is not understanding. Look, I know what you're probably thinking. Destin's probably just an uncoordinated engineer and can't do it. But that's not the case at all. The algorithm that's associated with riding a bike in your brain is just that complicated. Think about it. Downwards force on the pedals, leaning your whole body, pulling and pushing the handlebars, gyroscopic precession in the wheels, every single force is part of this algorithm. And if you change any one part, it affects the entire control system. I do not make definitive statements that often, but I'm telling you right now, you cannot ride this bicycle. You might think you can, but you can't. I know this because I'm often asked to speak at universities and conferences, and I take the bike with me. It's always the same. People think they're gonna try some trick or they're just gonna power through it. It doesn't work. Your brain cannot handle this. For instance, this guy, I offered him $200 just to ride this bike 10 feet across the stage. Everybody thought he could do it.
No, you didn't understand. You didn't understand. So, this way. Okay. All right, just a second. All right, so, whenever you're ready. Yeah. Wait. No, you have to keep your feet on. Dude, all right, here we go. Wait. Like, you gotta start rolling at least. Go. And go. Oh, go! All right, back up. Okay, wait. Keep your feet on the pedal. Go. Go right on. Just keep your feet on the pedals. Handles on. Yeah, come on. All right, one more time. Okay.
Once you have a rigid way of thinking in your head, sometimes you cannot change that, even if you want to. So here's what I did. It was a personal challenge. I stayed out here in this driveway and I practiced about 5 minutes every day. My neighbors made fun of me. I had many wrecks, but after 8 months, this happened. One day I couldn't ride the bike and the next day I could. It was like I could feel some kind of pathway in my brain that was now unlocked. It was really weird though. It's like there's this trail in my brain, but if I wasn't paying close enough attention to it, my brain would easily lose that neural path and jump back onto the old road it was more familiar with. Any small distractions at all, like a cell phone ringing in my pocket, would instantly throw my brain back to the old control algorithm and I would wreck, but at least I could ride it. My son is the closest person to me genetically, and he's been riding a normal bike for 3 years. That's over half his life. I wanted to know how long it would take him to learn how to ride a backwards bike, so I told him if he learned how to ride a backwards bike, he could go with me to Australia and meet a real astronaut.
Are you gonna give up?
No.
Go ahead. This is how it starts. Look at this. This is such a big deal. Get up, you got it. Did you see his brain get it? So in how many weeks have we been doing this? 2 weeks? In 2 weeks, he did something that took me 8 months to do, which demonstrates that a child has more neuroplasticity, am I even saying that right, than an adult.
It's clear from this experiment that children have a much more plastic brain than adults. That's why the best time to learn a language is when you're a young child.
All right, today's bike log. I can ride smooth, I can ride fast. I'm thinking the experiment is over. Okay, now I'm in Amsterdam, a city that has more bicycles than people. The question is, can I ride a normal bike now? I mean, I've spent all this time unlearning how to ride a bike. If I go back and try to ride a normal one, will my brain mess up? So I've tweeted a Smarter Everyday meetup, if you will, and I'm gonna see if somebody brings a bicycle and I'm gonna try to ride a normal bike. It's backwards, it's backwards.
This was one of the most frustrating moments of my life. I had ridden a normal bike since I was 6, but in this moment, I couldn't do it anymore. I had set out to prove that I could free my brain from a cognitive bias. But at this point, I'm pretty sure that all I proved is that I could only redesignate that bias.
So what you're not seeing is just a group of people here looking at me, looking at the strange American that can't ride a bike because they think I'm dumb. But I'm actually 2 levels deep into this because I've learned and unlearned. All right.
After 20 minutes of making a fool out of myself, suddenly my brain clicked back into the old algorithm. I can't explain it, but it happened in a very specific moment.
Got it. I'm back. Oh, it clicked. Hold on, it clicked. I got it. Okay, there it is. There was the moment. Okay, I can ride a bike.
I tried to explain this to the people around me, and they just didn't get it. They thought I was faking the previous 20 minutes, and I couldn't get anybody to believe me.
That looked like I faked that, didn't it?
Yeah.
Just a fake. You think I'm faking. You don't believe me.
They put so many to it, like, la, la, and it's full.
You think I'm lying, don't you? I'm not lying.
I felt like the only person on the planet who had ever unlearned how to ride a bike, and I couldn't articulate it to anyone because everybody just knew that you can't forget how to ride a bike. So I learned 3 things from this experiment. I learned that welders are often smarter than engineers. I learned that knowledge does not equal understanding. And I learned that truth is truth, no matter what I think about it. So be very careful how you interpret things because you're looking at the world with a bias, whether you think you are or not. I'm Destin. You're getting smarter every day. Have a good one.
Okay, if you want to support Smarter Every Day, you can download a free audiobook at audible.com/smarter. I recommend Commander Hadfield's book, which is An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. I read it. It was awesome. If you think about it, I had to learn how to ride a different kind of bicycle, and my son did as well. But Commander Hadfield had to learn how to ride a different spaceship. Not only that, but a different type of space station. He was on Mir and the International Space Station. Anyway, if you're interested in supporting Smarter Every Day, audible.com/smarter, An Astronaut's Guide to Life on Earth. I'm Destin, getting smarter every day. Have a good one.
So, I have a $700 bicycle here, a backward bicycle. And I would like for someone to try to ride the backward bicycle. Do I have a volunteer?
Go for it.
Go ahead. All you got to do, I'll give you $200 if you ride the bicycle to here. Ride it to here. Back up a little bit. You got to ride the whole distance, yeah. All right. Yeah, they got a little bit more distance to go. Start over again. You got to pedal the bicycle. You can't push yourself.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
Can you do it? Anybody else like to try it?
Yeah, I do.
All right.
I saw something video. I think I got you.
Push it back a little bit so we got to, I mean, that's a pretty short run. You ought to be able to. Yeah.
I'm always going to try $200.
Got it, Brad.
Two more tries.
All right. All right, here it goes.
I'm sure you can do this.
I got it. No problem.
He's using his conscious mind to override his unconscious mind, and guess what? It isn't going to happen. All right, Mike's going to do it. Can you do it?
Yeah.
How long do you think it would take you to override your subconscious mind?
I don't think it takes 8 months. I think
Have you done it?
I can do it probably in 3 months.
3 months. Possibly.
think it depends on how much you ride a normal bike or have in your life, you know. I'm not really that good at riding a normal bike. Might be easier.
Last try. Real determination there. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Now, if you really practice, I think if you practice this for 90 days, every day, 5 to 10 minutes a day, every day, and didn't ride a regular bicycle, I think you could probably learn how to ride this bicycle in 90 days. 3 months. But the problem is, a lot of times when we want to override a negative habit, we'll work at it for a little bit and we'll quit. Patricia attended one of my first seminars, and I was talking about my dream list, my goal list, and I said, I want to learn Spanish. I've had it on my dream list a long time. I want to learn Spanish, so Patricia's been helping me to learn Spanish. Now, we're supposed to meet every Wednesday night for an hour, and she teaches me Spanish. She speaks fluent Spanish and English. So we miss. And when we miss, I don't work on the Spanish, and then I go back to just pure English, and then I forget the stuff I've learned. So I got to have the consistency. The 90 days, the 3 months, consistently, every day, I need to spend 10 to 15 minutes a day learning Spanish. I can use YouTube. I can learn by listening to YouTube 5 to 10 minutes every day for 90 days. One day, just like he on the bicycle, it's going to click. And I'm going to be able to speak Spanish clearer and more fluently than I am right now. And now we're going to talk about compounding. This is an incredible... Brad talked about compounding. We're talking about compounding first. When I first started doing push-ups, I could only do about 10 push-ups, but I kept doing push-ups, and I do 10 every day, and then I got to where I could do 12. And then from 12, I could do 14. And today, I can do 250 push-ups before I leave the house in the morning. And that is because my muscles continue to grow, because I continue to work on it, and it's the same thing with money. So we're gonna go over the rule of 72. Whatever the return is on the investment, you divide that in. So like if you get 10% return on your investment, you divide 10 into the number 72, and it would take you 10 clicks or 10 times for the money to double. If you got 20%, you do it in less than 4 years. This is something, there's a lot of information on YouTube and on the internet about the law of compounding. This is just, we're going to start right here to kind of break it up, make it easy. $1,000 at a 20% rate of return. I loan Bryson here $1,000 at a 20% return. He's going to pay me back $1,200. Now, Melissa, I understand you got something coming up and you need to borrow a little bit of money, so I got $1,200. I'll loan you the $1,200 and you pay me back $240 in interest. Now I've got $1,440. And I loaned it to Bryson for 3 months. I loaned it to you for 3 months. Now I've started with $1,000. Now I'm already at $1,420. So I understand that, Julie, you got a situation now. You need to borrow a little short-term money also. So I have $1,440. Is that right? I loan that to you. You pay me back $288. Now I have $1,728. Then in the 4th year, I loaned the $1,728 to Robert. Robert pays me back $288. No, Robert pays me back $345. Now I have $2,073. That's the law of compounding in a positive way from the standpoint of being the lender to help someone else. You can do the same thing if you buy stocks. You can do the same thing if you buy a house. I bought a house back, my first house, for $65,000. A 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. I paid cash for the house. I've got a renter in there. They paid me $500 a month. I gave him a really great deal because he was trying to raise 4 kids from one baby mama with 4 dads, and he was one of the dads, and he was going to raise the other 3 kids, and he had a felony conviction. It was very hard for him to have a decent place to live. So I bought this house. I rented it to him well under the market, and then with the money that I got from that house, I bought another house. And then also for the money that I had working here. Now I own a lot of properties, and I've done it on the law of compounding. All my houses are paid for. I have 0 debt on all the houses. I don't buy a house generally unless I have the cash to do it. I want to live a totally debt-free life, and I'm using the law of compounding. Now this is a very, very important, this next part is very important. Venue. The venue that we work in. The venue that the people that we spend time with. I'm going to use this from a standpoint of fishing, okay? If you were going to go fishing in an aquarium, it's going to be relatively safe. It's probably going to be in somebody's living room. But as you notice, the fish are not real big in this aquarium. They can't get much bigger than that venue. They're not going to get much bigger than that venue. So if you're a great fisherman, you have all the equipment and everything, and you only fish in an aquarium, you're not going to catch very big fish. But if you go fishing in a farm pond, this venue is a lot bigger. You can catch a fish instead of this size. You can catch a fish, say, 5 or 6 pounds, a good sized fish, something that you could actually feed you and your family. So this is going to be a little bit more different than fishing in a living room. It might be extremely hot or extremely cold. You might have to drive to it. You might have to have a fishing license. You're probably going to need to have a fishing pole and a hook and so forth. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult to go fishing here than it would be to fish in an aquarium. Aquarium, you just reach in and pull the fish out. This is Lake Texoma. Now you can see that Lake Texoma is a big lake. These are miles and miles and miles. The river flows in, lots of fish in this lake, and these fish are able to grow well over 100 pounds. But we're over 100 miles away from Lake Texoma. And more than likely, if you're going to fish at Lake Texoma, you might launch your boat here. You need a boat, and you might need to go way over here to fish. Boats cost money. Boats break down. Lot more investment in this. Now, another thing is, if you're out in this area of the lake and a storm comes along, your boat could capsize and you could drown. People drown at Lake Texoma all the time. There's more risk at Lake Texoma, but the fish are much bigger. And here's the ocean. Now, in the ocean, you can catch fish over 1,000 pounds, but you need a bigger boat or almost a ship to go out to where the big fish are, and the storms can come and you can lose your life. It costs thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy the right equipment to be able to go out into this ocean and go fishing. But the rewards can be incredible. You can catch a 1,500-pound tuna that sells for $20 a pound or more. It can be a great return on your investment. So we got to look at the venues that we're in our lives right now. Like we talked about earlier, if you're going to go to a church with rich people. Don't go to a church with poor people. Go there to be fed. Go there to be around people that are successful, people that can help you to become more successful. Also go to a poor church to help those people there. But you go there to help. You go to the rich church to get help. And also, obviously, you go to church for a relationship with God. I also went to church because I wanted a girlfriend. That's a good place to go. So the venues are where we are. Now this right here is a shovel, okay? Anyone in this room could get a job with working for a company digging a ditch. Anybody could, right? Well, they're going to pay us right now, if we use a shovel to dig a ditch, they're going to pay us about $10 an hour. But if we use that shovel, we do a really good job, we dig the ditches right, the boss sees that we have initiative, we're ambitious, they might suggest that we learn about how to operate something that will get with this shovel, this is the wrong kind of shovel, but with a shovel, you're only going to be able to maybe dig from here to that wall if you work really hard to dig a 4-foot ditch from here to that wall in a day. But you can really go to digging if you know how to operate a backhoe. You could dig this same distance I'm talking about in minutes, not hours. But in order to drive a backhoe, you need to have skills. You need to understand how to use this equipment. We need to learn in order to understand how to operate this. Instead of getting paid $10 an hour, they might pay you $20 an hour or $30 an hour because you took the time to learn how to do this. A lot of people are just happy with the shovel. They're not willing to learn. They're not willing to watch videos. They're not willing to read books. They stay at this level, and that's okay. But it's really hard in America to have a very high standard of living if you're only getting paid $10 an hour. But if you read and you study and you be around other people and they can teach you how to do this, you have the humility to ask for help, you can go from a shovel to a backhoe. 3-point commitment. I believe that God cares more about our character than He cares about our comfort. I have a problem with gossip. I have a problem with complaining. And I have a problem with cussing. So I read a book called A Complaint-Free World by Will Bowen, who was, at the time was a minister in Kansas City. After I read his book, the first thing I did was I picked up the phone and I called. I tracked him down in Kansas City. Will Bowen's not a real common name. I tracked him down and I asked him a simple question. Mr. Bowen, would you consider being my mentor? I want to learn how not to complain. I want to learn how not to gossip. And he had 2 other things. He didn't have cussing on there. And he said, yes, I'd be interested in being your mentor. So I flew to Kansas City. He met me at the airport. We sat down for an hour. We determined if our chemistry was right. It was. So he agreed to mentor me. He has distributed over 23 million bracelets. Now he has a system. And the system is a really simple system. You get a bracelet. Any bracelet will do. A rubber band will do. You get a bracelet. I've got these specially designed. And you put it on either wrist. The wristband stays on this wrist as long as I don't complain, gossip, or cuss. If I complain, gossip, or cuss, I don't pop myself with it or anything like that. I just take the wristband off and put it on the other wrist. And I start over. The goal to this game is to go 3 days without complaining, gossip, or cussing. Could you do that? First question is not could you do it, would you even want to? Some people said, it's my right to cuss. It's my right to gossip. It's my right to complain. If I didn't complain, I wouldn't have anything to talk about. Okay? A lot of conversations, they start with complaint. You meet somebody you've never met before, the weather's not the best weather in the world. You say, can you believe how lousy the weather is? Can you believe how lousy the traffic is? And we just start off conversations with complaints. Do this for 3 days at our company. You go 3 days without complaining, gossip, or cussing, we give you a $20 bill. And every time you do that, you get a chance to win $500 once a month. So could you imagine working at a company where everybody is focused on not complaining, gossip, or cussing? That we want to find solutions to our problems instead of gossiping about the problem or the person. Gossip is vicious chatter. Let's see, what does it say? A conversation involving malicious chatter or rumors about other people. Why do we do that? Because it makes us feel better about ourselves, but have you ever said something about, have you ever gossiped about somebody and then you end up, it gets back to them? I've had that happen to me. Good friend of mine for years, 15 years, we were great friends. One time I gave my opinion to somebody else about this person. It got back to him. He confronts me. He said, did you say this? I said, yes. I didn't want to say it because it hurt him. And I didn't know what to do. I said, I'll never say it again. And he said, do you believe that? Yeah. He got up and left. For 2 years, he wouldn't talk to me at all. And then he finally started talking to me. And now we're somewhat back on track. But we'll never be on track because of what I said. So if you're interested in practicing this, we've got some bands and we've got the guidelines to how to do that over there. I've been doing this for over 8 years. And it's improved my relationship with everybody around me. Not to gossip about you, not to complain about you, just to try to do that. I am on day 3 right now. 3 days I've not complained, gossiped, or cussed, which is a miracle, I can promise you. Having a solid foundation. There's a guy named Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett is a financial investor. He's one of the richest men in the United States. He hangs out with Bill Gates. And he talks about the importance of whenever you're going to hire a new employee or you're going to pick a new friend or something, there's 3 areas that we should look at. That's an interesting noise. There's 3 areas that we should look at. Number one is, does the person have integrity? Are they able to be honest, and are they able to keep their promises? If you're poor and you got a car that has worn out tires because you're poor and you cannot afford to put tires on your car, and you're on your way to work and you get a flat tire because your tires are bad, and you get to work late, that's not integrity. The deal was you agreed with your employer you'd come to work on time. It is harder for poor people to have integrity than rich people. But it's not easy for either one of us. So he says, number one is you got to have integrity. Number 2 is you got to have intelligence. Now there's a couple of books I would recommend. One of the books is called The Straight A Conspiracy. It's written by 2 Harvard graduates, and they wanted to help students learn how to learn. So they wrote this incredible book called The Straight A Conspiracy, which referenced another book called Mindset by Dr. Carol Dweck. Those 2 books are incredibly important to read and very beneficial. So in the book, it talks about, yes, we can improve our intelligence. The IQ test was created for a baseline to figure out where a person is. But you can increase your intelligence by what you learn. It's not a fixed situation unless you have a fixed mindset. And in the book, Mindset, it talks about the importance of having a growth mindset. How do we get a solid foundation? Well, one of the things about character is you don't complain, you don't gossip, and you don't cuss. Cussing is the language of the hurt. And I don't hurt today the way I used to hurt, so why do I need to cuss? I don't need to cuss. Sometimes I like to cuss. And I don't cuss very often, and so when I drop the F-bomb, it gets people's attention. If you cuss all the time, so what? My philosophy, once again, is the more I give, the more I live. There's 5 types of people in our lives. There are people that want you to win. I want you to win, and I want to win. There's a story about a guy's got 1 orange. And there's 2 people that want to buy it. And both of them have $500. He's only got 1 orange. They both got $500. And he's going to sell it to whoever pays the most. They don't talk to each other. They start competing against each other. They got to save some of their money. One of them needs the orange for a reason, and another needs another part of the orange for a reason, but they don't know. The one guy just needs the juice. The other guy just needs the rind. But they don't know it. They're not communicating. The guy that's selling the orange needs to get the most money, so that's the only income he's going to have. If those 2 that need the parts of the orange talk to each other, they can offer the guy more money, and everybody can win. Win-win. Then there are some people that are win-lose type attitude. They want to win, and they want you to lose. They want to be better than you. They want you to lose. Tennis players, boxers, people that are in competitive sports among 2 people. But there are people in business that want to win, and they want you to lose. Then there are people that are lose-win. They don't mind losing as long as you win. My mom was a perfect example. She sacrificed a lot of things so that I could win, but she had to lose in order for me to win at that time in her life. And then there are the lose-lose people. There are people that are losers. They see themselves as losers. They know they're losers. They don't want to get up in the morning. They don't want to learn. They don't want to do anything. They just are losers. And if you start to win, they don't want to have anything to do with you. They tell you stuff like, who do you think you are? What are you trying to be? You're too good for us now? The answer should be yes.
Yep.
And then the next thing. If we can't do win-win, which is that's what I want to do. If I get into a situation with you, I want you to win and I want to win. And if we can't do win-win, then I want to do no deal, if at all possible. There's some times that I might have to lose or you might have to lose, but most of the time we can get to a win-win if we both have the heart to want to make that happen. I learned this again from, I think I learned this from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. 5 love languages. I'm almost out of time. I got 1 minute, so I'm going to try to get through this. The 5 love languages. There are 5 languages that we know. I know that I am loved if you do an act of service for me. If you're serving me, I know that you love me. If my wife does something for me, I know that she loves me. Another one is words of encouragement or discouragement. If you tell me with your words you don't like me, I know. It gets down into my soul. If you give me words of encouragement, I feel that you love me. If you're trying to encourage me to take the right actions, I feel like you really love me. You care about me. You want to see me be successful. The third one is touch, the importance of touch. They say if you have a baby and you don't touch that baby when they're itty bitty, that they can shrivel up and die. We need touch. I've been getting professional massages since I was 26 years old, 2 a week for 36 years. One of the greatest wedding gifts you can give a new couple is go on Amazon, type in massage table. You can buy a massage table and have it delivered to the new couple for less than $100. I've given away lots of massage tables. When I first met my wife, Leslie, when we were dating, the very first thing I said, I want you to come over to the house and I want to give you a non-sexual massage for 1 hour. That was over 20 years ago. And every week I give my wife a massage for an hour. No sex involved, just a massage. If she's mad at me or disturbed with something I've done, how can she be disturbed after an hour of massage therapy? And now she gives me an hour of massage therapy. I don't know what you guys did for Valentine's. I asked Leslie what she wanted to do, and she said, why don't we just move our massage time, which is usually on Saturday mornings because we're doing this seminar, why don't we just do massage Friday night? So I went to work, I came home, I got her the chocolate, I got her the flowers, I got her the card, I got a balloon, and then afterwards, we exchanged massages. Massages with the massage table cover all 5 love languages. It's an act of service. I use words. She's got the most incredible skin. She's got a beautiful smile. She's a great mother. I share with her at the beginning of the massage before she gets into the deep thoughts about words of encouragement. Obviously, touch. It's a full hour without interruption. And it's a gift. So the 1 hour massage covers all 5 love languages. I do it once a week. A lot of people, when I say I give my wife a massage every week for an hour, they say, how do you find the time? Well, by doing this massage every week for an hour, we don't have the kind of problems that a lot of couples have, so we got time to do a lot of other things we want to do. 2 kinds of people in your life. Basically, if you ask me a question, if you say, Tom, you want to go eat dinner? You guys hear it's 12 o'clock? If you want to go, Tom, you want to go eat dinner? I am hungry. You say you want to go, you ask me if I want to go eat dinner, I'm going to say no if I don't think about it. My automatic default is I'm a mismatcher. My wife's automatic default is she's a matcher. Praise God. So I say, do you want to go have dinner or lunch? And she says yes, without thinking about it. Now, she just ate at 11:30. She really doesn't need to go eat, but I ask her, do you want to go eat? She says yes. Then she thinks about it and she says, oh, wait a minute, I just ate at 11:30. I'm really not hungry. She started to process it. But automatically, she's going to match. Automatically, I'm going to mismatch. What about if she was a mismatcher and I was a mismatcher? Our automatic thought, we would have to be conscious of the fact that we're going to argue, that we're not going to want to match. So we have to use our conscious thought. We have to reprogram ourselves not to just give an answer without thought. So if you're a matcher, hopefully you're married to another matcher, or you understand that the person you're married to, the mismatcher, is going to disagree with everything you want to do without them thinking about it. The last thing is the dream list. I think the last thing. There's probably some other things. I know we've run out of time. On page 41 of the book, Mentor, the Kid and the CEO, there's 3 pages about the importance of a dream list. I know for a fact there are several of you in this room that do not have a written goal list. A goal list or a dream list is the same thing, the way I look at it in this situation. This house right here that's on the screen is my dream house. I drove up and down the street, Lakehurst Drive in Oklahoma City on the east side of Lake Hefner. I wanted to buy a house on that so I could see those beautiful sunsets. And in 1997, this house came available for sale at a price that I could somewhat afford. But at the same time, I was building a building for $1.5 million. The business was interesting, and I decided to not buy this house. I wanted to buy the house, but I couldn't because it's just too much financial pressure. I didn't have the money. I was going to have to finance the whole thing. A year later, this house came on the market again, and I was able to buy the house. I've lived in the house ever since. It's not the same house now. We've added a lot of features to the house that it didn't have. We've lived in there for over 21 years. Have a written dream list. Have a goal list. Write down what you want to do. I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to get married. I wanted to get married to a great woman. I found a great woman. I write all these things down. I wanted to write a book. I couldn't write a book. I kept trying and trying to write a book, and then I read a book by the guy that started Kinko's. And he gave me some information I needed in order to write a book, and that's how I ended up writing The Mentor. Write a dream list. You go to a seminar like this, if you get some takeaways, if you do a personal inventory, if you look at your priorities you wrote down, and you look at the action that you said you were going to take to move that number up 1, and you actually do it, then you didn't waste this 3 hours. If you pick up a book now, you haven't read a book in a while, you take one of these books that we're giving away for free, and you read it, or you reread it. Like we've talked about, the importance of rereading the same book. Our next seminar is going to be March the 18th. It'll be on a Wednesday night at 6:30, 3 hours long. Saturday in April, it'll be at 9:30, Brad, instead of 9.
Yeah.
And it'll be over at 12:30. And then in May, it'll be on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Our goal is to sell 100 seats for this seminar. And all the proceeds will go to the World Book Bank so that we can donate educational, religious, business books, and personal development books to people that are in jails and prisons. In the state of Oklahoma, in the United States, there are over 3.2 million Americans in prison that don't have the knowledge in order to be successful. The World Book Bank gives away 4 books. We give away The Purpose-Driven Life. We give away Think and Grow Rich. We give away Mentor, the Kid and the CEO. And we give away Alcoholics Anonymous books. We have given away, where's the number? 1,442,976 books in the last few years. That aquarium over there is full of letters from people that have received the books that it has influenced their life in a positive way. So all the proceeds, the 3 hours that I'm investing to share the knowledge I've learned so that you can use some of the knowledge to have a better life, the 3 hours I've taken out of my life, all the proceeds go so we can give away more books so we can make a difference. A lot of people say, we got too many people in prison, all these criminals and all this stuff. What are we doing about it? What I'm doing is I'm giving them the knowledge that they need in order to be successful. And you have participated in the seminar, or if you want to make a donation to the World Book Bank, that's fine. Just go to the website. You know, we can make a difference. You don't have to make a huge donation, but any donation. That book, The Purpose-Driven Life, when I first started buying those, I couldn't get them for less than $19. And then I got them at $14. I started buying them at Walmart, and I got the price down and down. Now we buy 50,000 of those books every time we put an order in. That's a full semi of books. So we do get a quantity discount. I really appreciate you guys coming. If you please share this seminar with other people. This seminar was about a 6 on a 10 scale. I want to make it an 8 or a 9 next time. So I really appreciate you guys coming, and thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
sir.
really appreciate you.